years to get your MD, you know, so.
Jeez.
Live streams offline on YouTube.
Yeah, and I'm getting really bad graphics here too. So
Yeah.
When is that documentary due out? Do we have a possible release date on that?
Yeah, we lost it. Hey, what baud rate you running at today, Mark? Yeah, we lost it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I'm getting like really degraded graphics on or video on Zoom here, so it's having trouble too.
Yeah, both the streams are offline. Hold on, maybe the YouTube's coming back.
I've had my own problems too. I get you.
Back in a moment.
Okay. I see a green light, but I don't see the feed yet on YouTube. I'm waiting for it to show up.
The video's upgraded again here, so I'm assuming the connection's getting better. So
I see it now. 600 baud now.
double speed poke it.
Double speed poke that baud rate. Okay.
So are we back on Facebook and YouTube now, or?
Yeah, it's going to be a new feed. So anybody who's watching us on Facebook would have to go back to the top of the CoCo Talk page and get a new feed. Yeah, but it's back on. I see it, and it's clear. The picture is perfectly clear.
Yeah, I see it too. Oh no, wait, this is
The hazards of dial-up.
Some phone freakers screwing around with us right now.
First world problems in the 21st century.
Yes. Well, if it's any consolation, I'm still trying to take possession of my old hard drive to take ownership of it, and it's taken forever.
It does take forever. I did it myself. I just had a rebuild about 2 months ago.
Oh, Windows has the bad habit of taking forever to do that.
Yes, it's true.
You can't just flip the bits. It has to actually open it and read it.
Taking a long ass time.
So has anybody got any actual coding questions?
That's it. Exactly. I was thinking about that when we were talking about getting the internet back. You know, it's like, well, you know, back then your mom would pick up the phone. And it's like, Mom.
What is this ungodly noise?
That was the thing, man.
Waiting, but you can't.
You needed a second phone line if you were a serious online person, you know, because it's like call waiting or whatever. And
I asked that once. I said, hey, can I have my own phone? Oh, my God. You'd think I'd asked if I could kill somebody.
Yeah, it freaked me out. I had a phone when I was like, 18 years old. I had a phone line installed in my bedroom to run BBSs on and use BBSs. And I didn't even know when the phone line worked, because I actually had bought a phone from Radio Shack too. So I had a Radio Shack phone. I had it plugged in and the thing just started ringing. And it freaked me out because I'd never had a phone before. And I never heard what this phone sounded like when it rang. And so hearing that first phone ring in your bedroom when you're a teenager, it would like freak me the heck out for a little bit. And I'm like, I finally figured out it was the phone. I pick it up. I'm like all confused. I'm like, hello? And it's like, oh yeah, this is, Bob from Bell South, and I'm here to let you know your phone's hooked up and whatever. And I was just like, wow, it was a weird experience getting that first phone call out of nowhere.
Yeah, when I installed I did the same thing, installed a phone in my bedroom to run the BBS on, which would have been 83, 84. So it would have been, I don't know, grade 10 or something. But after the first night of having people calling in, because I announced my BBS on other BBSs across Canada, I was getting calls at 2 or 3 in the morning, stuff from people on the West Coast. So then I just unplugged the phone, and I very rarely had the phone itself plugged in. The line went directly to the modem.
Right.
wake me up all the time.
And even then, you had to do settings in the modem because I had an internal modem, and it had its own speaker settings where you could still hear the squelch when people called in. And so I forgot, there were certain commands you had to do to turn off the internal speakers.
Yeah, I was lucky. My JCAT didn't have that enabled by default, but it did have a relay when it answered the phone. So you hear this click, which I just eventually, tuned
Drowned
out.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, ATV 0 to shut it off.
Oh yeah, the volume 0.
Part of your init string.
Yeah, ATS 0 equals S1 equals S12 equals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those
Then
were
you had
the
to worry about
days.
haze versus USR versus Zoom versus, because some of them were subtly different in certain spots.
Yeah,
Yep.
they are.
Yep, they are compatible.
Yeah.
Xi modem still uses it.
Well, it was
But
a good idea.
You can control them with AT commands.
Yeah.
From a terminal.
Yeah,
Like
you can basically do an ATD and then type in an IP address and do a telnet connection.
Jerry Young in chat here goes, the first $300 phone bill from long distance BBS downloading the phone privilege was revoked. I had that issue myself.
Yeah. Yeah, another one too is the Sierra Online games. They had a telephone hint system.
Yeah.
But either it was 1-900 or it was long distance, but either way, to call in and get those hints, you ended up spending a whole bunch of money back before magazines and the internet and stuff,
Yeah, it was like several bucks just to calling it hints.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And back
I
then,
remember
long
that.
distance was a lot more expensive. And if you called after midnight, it was cheaper. So I'd stay up, on a school night and, call some BBS at between midnight and 3 in the morning and then try to go to school after 3 hours sleep.
Yeah, I remember back in those days predicting that long distance would go away. I don't know why. I just knew that it was going to happen. And it did. I mean, you go get a cell phone now, you got nationwide long distance calling included. There's no
Most
long distance fee.
landlines are still, flat rate calling, U.S. and Canada.
With long distance fees
No, flat rate.
for the whole United States.
Yeah, and Canada.
And
Yeah.
Canada, all of North America.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But I don't know why. I just kind of knew that was going to eventually happen because maybe, I don't know, even this is like pre-internet days. I'm talking like in the early 80s. I just had this feeling that technology was going to make long distance a thing of the past.
I was hoping it did because long distance was even based by how far away the distance was. Because if I was phoning Florida versus Toronto, which is technically, not even that much of a difference. It was an international one. They'd add a surcharge extra on long distance fees.
You know what I found out about that? There's these things. I suppose they're gone now, but they were called LATAs, LATA.
Local area transfer. Yeah.
Yeah, and calling inter-LATA was more expensive than calling outside of it.
Yep.
And because I was calling a bunch of BBSs in the Cleveland area, which was long distance to me, and I had like a $200 phone bill, or $100 phone bill, and I was like, yeah, okay, that's got to stop. Or no, I was calling all over the country, and I had like a $100 phone bill, so I'm like, that's got to stop. So I limited myself to calling the close long distance in Cleveland. And then it was like $200 the next month. So then I just quit calling them all together because the city I lived in had about a half a dozen to a dozen, depending on the time, BBSs to call.
Different regulations for the long distance carriers and the local
Different.
carriers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the regulations were horrible.
Yeah. Or remember Rusty and Edie's? Does anybody remember that?
Yeah. I do.
Yeah, they were in the Cleveland area and they had like 70 networked computers and they were like the biggest BBS on the planet.
Yep.
And one guy took him down because he was, it's an interesting story. He was dying of cancer and he wanted to like write a hit program to generate money to take care of his family. And it was being traded freely on Rusty and Edie's and he found it. So he told him to take it down or he was going to sue. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear. Yep.
Hello.
John Lowry, we hear you.
We hear you.
I think he lost his speakers.
Yeah.
I just had a freeze on the video, so I don't know if we got another internet hit there or not.
Because
He
he's on
didn't finish
he's
the
on
story.
Mac. What's going on with your damn dial-up today?
Mom, put the phone back down.
Mom, hang up. We're still on the damn CoCo talk.
Is it still on Facebook and YouTube then, or did that get?
I think Facebook has frozen. I'm waiting to see if YouTube.
Yeah,
Okay, but we lose Facebook every time that happens, and it has to start a new feed on Facebook. YouTube kind of picks right up, so people watching will eventually see it. Okay, now we just went red. I'm red on YouTube.
Yeah, I think the internet's generally having problems today. Quick question for the panel here. How many people here, because I think out of this panel, the majority of us were on BBSs back in the day, or even CompuServe, but how many here were not part of the BBS CompuServe Delphi scene?
I was not on CompuServe or Delphi. I called local BBSs.
Well, I wasn't.
Were on any of those, Nick?
Genie.
there were lots of part-time BBSs. There were Commodore 64 in the next town from me that I called.
So Nick, you never did any of this?
Pretty well, no.
Wow.
I had a modem, and every now and then I might dial on, but yeah, I didn't really use it. No.
Oh man, you missed out. I mean, I hate to say it. But...
Yeah. Like I said, if I wasn't programming on my CoCo, I was on like CompuServe or BBSs and just enjoying myself.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Well, CompuServe
Yep.
was a bit expensive dialing from Australia, so.
Oh,
But did you guys not have much of a BBS scene in Australia? Was that the
There
problem?
were BBSs, but yeah, I never really.
Did you have any CoCo BBSs?
No, I think they were. I never went on any of them. No.
Or even TRC Model 1 for your Model 1 days?
They probably were again, but I never went on them.
Were you too busy coding games or something?
I was too busy coding games. Yeah.
That's such a poor excuse. Well, instead of writing the next waterfall, you should just try hitting a BBS now with a Y modem or Xi modem or something.
Writing games and making money. Yeah.
A lot of BBSs still exist on the internet.
yeah, there's a few.
They're kind of coming back because of these, virtual ones that actually are AT compatible. So the old software works.
Yep. There weren't any BBSs in my town. It was too small, but the state capital had like a dozen or so. And it was after 6 p.m. It was 6 cents a minute, long distance. I was like, okay, I can afford
I know
that.
here in Saskatoon, like in the early 80s, our population was about 150,000. And we had, I think at one time, over 30 BBSs.
Wow.
I had a multi-line one for a while myself, running on a CoCo.
That's rich, multi-line one.
I got about 75% through writing my own and then just gave up.
I had a Disk Basic one that was based on the driver that Rainbow published, the second version of it from Dan Downward, I think, did it. And I ran a 1200 baud, single user Disk Basic for a few years, and then I ended up switching to an OS9 when I partly wrote part of it myself and part of it was from AlphaSoft, which Bill will remember, by Keith Alfonso, that had a whole bunch of nice little utilities that came with it too. So multiplayer, online games, all kinds of things.
And Bruce Moore posted a freeze frame from today's show. When Brian Weezer was unboxing everything, he was talking about magazines, and somebody says, "Are there any Playboys in there?" or something like that in the live chat. And then Nick Marotta had said something about, "I wish I'd buy one," right? But I guess it was a timing thing, so he was talking about the MC10, but it came in right after the guy
The Playboy.
Playboy magazines. Yes,
Especially on a delay.
yeah, but we do have that disclaimer now that says if any off-color comments were made. So that's kind of funny. Bruce caught it, freeze framed it. Wow. Yeah, well.
Yeah, I was wondering, like now Diego's joined in and Enrico and Erico. You guys had Erico, sorry. If you guys have any questions on programming and stuff here, which was the original purpose of this rather than being a retro BBSing talk show.
No, I just in my case, I'm gonna pester Simon and a few other people in the community, see if I can get some help with the SG graphics stored, probably in the upper 32K.
Okay.
So I'll probably try to contact those guys, or even Nick maybe, if those are not available. So that's probably the kind of help I need at the moment right now. I couldn't find a way to within Basic display the SG graphics without taking something like 400 bytes, sorry, to 1.4, and that doesn't leave much room for images. So I guess I have to contact those guys.
Now, are you running this off disk? Like, can you load each image just one at a time as you need them, or?
No, I was thinking the prime idea was to have everything in the same code, something like a cassette version, right?
Oh, okay.
And,
So you want like you need compressed graphics, basically, like a run length encoded or something along that line.
And I wanted first I wanted it to be everything standard, extended basic stuff, no machine language or anything else. And I wanted to be able to do it by myself, but it seems that the scope of the game I planned is just a little bit above. So I guess either I shrink the game and take things out of it and try to get some rooms into it, some more rooms, or I get the help of people who can do that memory switch. And well, we'll see. I'll try to contact people this week, see if I can find a solution, or at least if they can point me towards the right way. There is this post. Let me find it here. There's a post from where's resources, computers. It's a post on the forum, right? Here it is. And I was even going to. I asked you guys before because I can't seem to find this user at least very active. Do you guys know Glenn?
Which Glenn? Glenn Hewlett?
Yeah, that's something I don't know. He just wrote with name Glenn. And well, anyways, here's a link to it. You guys want to take a look? I share this chat right here. So I think I also might. Oh, here's the link. That's that for you guys. So on that post, he has a machine language program that seems to be able to do what I want. So I might research that a little bit. And,
oh wow! I can't believe anybody's still using that Tandy form. That was just supposed to be.
No, truly, Steve, I wish people would use more because sometimes I try to find some stuff on Facebook and it takes ages.
Yeah. Well, I think Discord kind of took over.
It, yeah.
Well, but is searching over Discord anything easier? Because I get the same impression.
It's probably a little bit better than Facebook, but yeah, it's not as good as nothing's as good as a forum for that kind of searching.
Yeah, I believe in the same thing. I also enjoyed I use Gmail, right? And I try to keep the conversations in Hangout and all that because I can look for stuff I discussed it there like 10 years ago. But still, I wish people would use the forum more because the things stay there.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
anyway,
honestly, I've kind of forgotten about it, but we should probably be trying to promote it a little bit. I think the problem becomes there can be too many places to communicate, and then it gets become overwhelming. I think for the most part, Discord, I think has been a pretty good tool. So
yeah.
I'm not opposed to plugging that forum more. I need to remember to because I mean I'm hosting it and I forgot that it's there. So.
I haven't visited in months until now, this moment.
Maybe
I pop
Curtis
in
could do a
every now.
web-based BBS.
That's good.
Isn't that what a forum is essentially,
Yeah.
or to a degree, at least the
Or similar to
message?
the way they used to be, a retro BBS on the web.
Yeah. Well,
There's
BBSs were kind of split up into a message section, a software section, and a game section.
Yeah, online gaming stuff. Yeah.
Trade wars.
Yep. There's still one that's being made called Synchronet. I posted a link in YouTube.
Erica, what are you writing this software on? What type of computer?
I'm using an emulator.
Which
Are you targeting
memory?
CoCo 1, 2, or 3 though? Or were you going for all of them?
Targeting probably 1 and 2. That's I think it needs to be cassette, at least at the state the code is. It's probably gonna use close to that 31K if I use basic only. So I don't think I can use disk extended basic, right? I'd have to
You
use
could
the
always have a loader convert it to all RAM mode
Yeah,
and give some free memory above the ROMs.
that's true.
Yes.
I think that's
And
what
I'm-
Evan was kind of telling him too, or whoever. I'm trying to remember who Nowhere Man is. No, it's Glenn Hewlett. Sorry. Yeah, that was Glenn Hewlett. Was responding to you on the forum. I took out the message.
Oh, nice.
And
So
there's
yeah, I think he was
loaders.
proposing the same thing where you use the upper 32K and then you have a little USR call that will
Yeah.
you pass the number of the scene you want and it'll copy it over onto the screen.
Let me get something straight. Can I keep on the lower 32K? That's where my coding will reside in memory, right?
Yeah, that's where basic itself, your basic program will be. Yeah.
So I can't have like my program. The program itself cannot go over the 32K, or can I store
Not without
parts
patching
of the
basic.
program?
No. There was a patch for basic to give you up to 40K for the CoCo 1 and 2 because the disk, even if you have disk basic installed, that's only 24K of ROM, so there's 8K not being used for anything. And if you had a 64K CoCo 1 or 2, there was a patch you could do so that basic moved itself, color basic, extended basic, disk basic moved itself up, and then basic got 40K contiguous RAM to work with instead of just 32.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's at least in the case for this game, if I can keep the features I already have into it and a few more I want to, it doesn't matter if it changes to be a disk-based game or anything like that. It truly doesn't matter.
You could
as long as
load load the pictures from disk then directly onto the screen.
Yeah, if you do
Yeah,
from disk,
that's-
then you got 153K on your floppy drive that you can use, and you can just tell it to load in right onto the screen, just as a little 5 kilobyte picture or less. If you, I think your game was designed. The top half was semi graphics, and the bottom half was for text in your menus.
Yeah, not actually half, but 10 lines. 10 lines for the graphics.
Yeah, so you don't
6
even
for
need to
the
load
text.
the full half K for semi graphics. You only need to load in like a third of a K or something.
Yeah, something like 200K, or as far as I
Gigabytes,
calculated,
yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, disk
yeah.
would free you up from that quite a bit because then you wouldn't need all the basic program space for your graphics. You would just block load them in off disk. Now, if you wanted to run from cassette, then the only two options you have there is using the other 32K with like what Glenn sent you on the forum, or you come up with a compression way to do your semi graphics. Like what Nick did his bit with last week when he did the string command to draw a whole line of one character. Instead of having to define a 32 character string, he just uses a string command to draw 32 characters using far less RAM. So if you have repeating patterns going across, you can actually just say, print this one little pattern 5 times or 10 times or whatever it is. And then you can save some RAM that way. So you can compress the graphics.
It's an extra one. Yeah, I'm thinking about I wonder which path would be more, let's say, difficult for somebody that's coming back to it like me. And even at the days, I wasn't really that deep of a coder. So I think the disk solution would be easier for me to handle. I guess,
It would be
right?
Way easier. Yeah.
way easier.
And for everybody to use too.
Yep.
It's well, no, this is something like a pipe dream, right? I'm not really sure I can pull that up, but if the system becomes anything okayish, at least it would be nice to have people from the community mess with it, change it, So I hope I release it for free after some time if it ever gets completed, and maybe people can improve it at least to a point that it becomes something like an adventure maker kind of thing.
Like an
Uh,
engine.
yes, the easiest possible, but I guess the person would still need to know a bit of color basic to deal with that.
How
But that's
many
the thing.
images? How many images are you talking about to have
You mean like
in the
rooms?
game? Yeah. What do you
Hey,
expect?
how many semi-graphics pictures does your game
All right.
require? I guess?
See, I've put the game in a 6x6 grid, so that will be 36 at the most. But I'm dropping 3 of them, so no, 4 of them. I'm currently using 32 screens. That is
32. Okay.
Of your 10 line or 16 line.
How many lines? 10 by 32 is
10 lines.
So 320
10
bytes.
lines. So 320 bytes by how many screens?
And we're talking about 10K.
32
Sorry?
screens.
How many screens? I couldn't hear it.
32.
32.
Mhm.
That's 10K.
That's only 10K. That's heaps. You could have a machine code routine. Get all your pictures, draw them all up, assemble them in normal RAM, and then you have a machine language routine that would, on loading, would copy that block into the upper 32K RAM area, and then you just need a machine language subroutine where you tell the routine, I want picture 1, and it would then bank in, grab that picture, and dump it to the screen.
Yeah, that's
That
exactly what
way-
Evan was saying on the forum.
Mhm.
Oh,
Or
yeah. Well, that's the way I would do it. And
if you
that's
don't mind going very slow, you can pick and poke.
Hmm.
Yeah, but you can't peek and poke
well,
outside.
no,
the
you don't even need to
32,000.
do that. If you have a machine code routine, it will just grab the picture in the upper RAM and copy it straight to your screen, and that's it. You don't need to print nothing. It'll automatically bring that picture onto the screen.
Yeah, and the
Couldn't
pick
you-
and poke
couldn't
technique
you
wouldn't really
just-
work in this case because you'd have to map out the ROM to map the other 32K
Yeah,
RAM. You just
it-
lost basic.
It would need to be a machine code routine, yeah.
And
it
you
would
guys
be
said-
fast.
But would that take 10K? Would that be it?
No, you got well almost 32K.
Oh,
You can have a lot more pictures than that.
Yeah, you can put all
Almost.
your pictures into the second 32K bank that this
Yeah.
ML routine calls, and then your basic code takes the other 32K for itself.
Yeah, basic
Yeah.
has not lost any RAM at all.
That's nice. Glenn said something. I could probably store 100 pictures on the upper area, and well, 100 pictures is actually pretty interesting.
Well, 100 is
You could even do
Okay.
some simple compression too. Like you could have a little header on there that says that, the background color of this particular picture is
Mhm.
mostly blue sky. So I just say, color blue, fill it with this. So I have a little byte sequence that says fill it. So instead of actually drawing a whole bunch of blue pictures
yeah.
or pixels, you just have it clear the screen blue. And then your picture basically is just saying, starting at this XY, draw this block of data, this XY, and you just draw the parts that are not blue. So a
Mhm.
scene that
And
might
skip
take
the others.
320 bytes normally might only take 200 if you have the top half of that picture is a blue sky, for example.
Yes, that's something interesting. It's just I understand the concepts like an RLE compression, but horizontally instead of vertical. But I think that's a little bit advanced for me to pull. And on the other side of things, my own coding, I'm still going to optimize it. I'm just bashing these days the code, and I'll optimize it as time goes. And I'm running through 20K already. And
Now, if I remember correctly from last week, you had a whole bunch of rems in there just so you can keep track of what you're doing, right?
yes, instead of the image, I have a bunch of variables displaying, so I can test some.
Yeah,
stuff.
because we suggested moving your rems out, like just either write them in separately or make a separate program that just has, little remarks for yourself saying lines 10 to 20.
Oh no! Oh, of course. The time before, with the first time we talked, I took that hint from you guys. Thank you guys.
Oh,
for
okay.
that.
Okay.
I'm keeping the intending part of the code on a different file now, but I'm still getting used to it though.
If you're displaying multiple screens, couldn't you just load all of the screens into RAM?
That's what we're
Yeah,
talking about.
That's
that's
what
what
we're
I'm
but I
talking
mean,
thinking.
but I mean, instead of copying them to the video display, why not just move the video display to where the screen is? It's a lot easier.
No, because it's under ROM. It's underneath the ROM.
Yeah, not only that, but he's only copying a part of the screen because the bottom half of the screen is still going to be text.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that part has to stay consistent. So
Yeah.
So you just copy it to the existing RAM page.
I see. So you're using the RAM underneath the.
Underneath the ROM, that's where you store your whatever number of pictures, and the machine code routine that you would jump to would map out the ROM, grab the picture, and copy it to the area of the display where it's normally is kept, and then bank back the ROM and jump back to BASIC. BASIC won't know what happened, and
It won't care.
it won't know what hit it. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, John, your technique would work if you were doing full screen images, like if you the whole page, like the whole 512 byte semi-graphic screen was all.
It would work with that. It would just
Yeah. But in this case, he wants to reserve the bottom so many lines for his text interface, which is not going to change. So you have, if you change the pointer,
you wouldn't need to. Yeah.
Every single screen too.
Right. Gotcha.
Oh well, but that's the main dilemma these days, and
It actually sounds like we finally got into coding talk now too. It took 2 hours to get to the coding part of the coding show. So
I still need to figure out. Tomorrow is going to be a very beautiful day here, place where I live, and I should be taking the pictures I would like to use as base for the semi-graphics creation. And well, at least that's going to advance, and hopefully through the week I can talk with more people and follow up one of these two choices you guys said. Either the
I think you basically got three choices. You've got the load the stuff into the upper 32K, write an ML routine. You could do compression either by having a default background color once you're not redrawing or having to store an entire picture. You just have to do the parts that are not whatever the base color is. Or you switch it to just being off disk, which gives you 153K that you can just yank off and load whenever you want.
Yeah, those three choices are actually interesting.
The disk one would be the easiest, but I mean, that limits you to having this run on systems that have disk drives.
You should go ahead and do it, get it working, and then worry about trying to make it better.
Yeah, that's the idea. To get something done and working, and then we get to improve stuff.
Disk would be easiest, get it working, and then worry about trying to stuff it in RAM.
Yeah, the original idea was to come up with a very simple project, but it always happens that things grow out of control. Ideas keep popping
Called
in.
feature creep always makes things bloat.
Exactly that.
That's kind of a feature of Nitrous 9, actually. Feature creep.
It's not a bug; it's a feature.
Oh, and there's this other subject I was talking about the pictures. I hope I take them tomorrow. I did a bit. I used a bit of Simon's editor, but it's really hard for if you're used to Photoshop drawing and tablet drawing. It's a little bit difficult to use if you're used to Photoshop or that kind of programs. And Matchy once did write a tool in GL Basic, which you draw the semi-graphics in a more Photoshop style, and it outputs a color computer text program, right? It's a PC program. You run it, do your drawing, and it outputs very similar to Jonan's online tool. And I'm not sure for this case here, this 36 screens, if I get them done on Photoshop, I can painstakingly convert every character by hand. I'm still thinking if I if I should pastor Matchy or attempt to do something myself, or talk to John. I'll try to find a better way to make this conversion. It's John's tool is really great and very useful, but I find it very hard to create something in it. It feels more comfortable if I have drawing somewhere else and I'm pushing it. It's just copy and
Is
paste.
that the one that's web based?
Yes, that one.
Yeah,
It's really great.
If it were me, I would design a program that would take a bitmap image that you would draw up using a 2D editor on a PC or whatever. So you can draw the graphics with 8 color dots on a 2D screen, get all the pictures on the screen, and then a basic program, you would write a separate basic program that would then just read the pixels and convert them directly into bytes that it would poke into the CoCo RAM and do a conversion that way. Yeah, that just gives you the flexibility of being able to use a normal 2D editor on a PC or a Mac to draw all the pictures. The only thing is you've got to keep take into account the fact that the color restrictions that you've got under the semi-graphics mode. But if you're careful, you can design it all on the 2D image, and the basic program will then just read that data and create the actual semi-graphics code.
Make it do a best fit.
Oh, a what?
You can do a best fit when you're converting to semi-graphics.
Well, if you draw the 2D image with the correct colors and everything, there's not too much conversion. All you're doing is translating it from that bitmap image and working out what every set of 4 pixels, what that would translate to in the semi-graphics characters.
But tell you the truth, the semi-graphic resolutions is such a low resolution that
yeah,
if one goes about creating a drawing to like a paint program specifically for the semi-graphics, it wouldn't be reinventing the wheel, I guess, because you don't need many, you don't need fancy tools. The resolution is so low, so it's. I'm not sure. I think I might give a try on that idea. At least so that I can draw the semi-graphics in a more flexible fashion. It's more about the interface you are using to paint something. It's more comfortable for me to paint with GIMP or paint with Photoshop than anything else.
Or write a program on the CoCo to help you draw the pictures, and then it just saves every picture as you go. So you use the color computer itself as the painting tool.
Yeah, we love GMAX for that.
Yeah. So you're creating another basic program as a tool to help you create the other basic program. But I do that all the time.
It would still be a little bit above my knowledge. I mean, I could create a drawing program in BASIC with the semi-graphics. I think I probably did a few back in the days, but I just wouldn't know how to save the files or how to dump the characters or something like that. That's the part.
Well, if you want to save it as an actual binary of just the actual data, when you type load them, it just loads it right onto the screen directly. That's really easy. That's just a save M command, and we can tell you exactly the parameters.
1024, and it would just go down so many lines. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you reserve an area of memory above your basic program, you can always store a certain number of screens in that area. So you just draw, say, I don't know, 10 screens. As you complete every screen, poke it up to the area in the top, and then you save that area. You know, you may end up with, 3-4 files. Each one has 10 10 screens worth. And then when you've got them all organized and designed, then you have the machine code program to poke them up into the area. Well, to gather them all together and get them to be moved in under the ROM.
Yeah. Now, if he does it the disk way, you don't have to do any of that stuff. You would just
Well,
save
yeah,
each
yeah, you can.
individual one as a file.
You
and-
could do each one, yeah. Then you'd end up with whatever number of files on the disk, which is workable. Yeah, I mean, you can do that
Yeah.
as well.
It'd be easier. I mean, from a programming perspective, you wouldn't need an ML anything really.
Somewhere along the line, you'll have to grab or load up all the. Well, yeah. Well, it depends if he's doing this for cassette or for
Yeah, that's the big
for
difference.
disk.
Because that would be
Yeah,
more complicated programming wise. It would save memory.
yeah.
wise.
Yeah, when
If you're
you go
doing it
into-
on disk, then yeah, just make every picture loaded from disk straight onto the screen.
One of the problems with disk, though, is the granule size is going to limit the number of pictures you can store on the disk more than the size of the pictures.
Yeah, well, it probably means you can only put 68 pictures on there. If every
Or 67 if you want your basic program on there at the same
yeah,
time.
yeah, well, that's right. Your basic program's got to sit somewhere too.
But you said right now you're only using 32 screens that
Yes,
you want,
just-
right?
Yeah, so
That'd
that
be
would be
easy on it.
okay.
You'd be fine on disk then. That'd be the easiest. You wouldn't need any ML subroutines at all. It would just be basic program.
Oh,
What's
still, if
the
it's-
size of one granule? 2K, isn't it?
I think it's
2304
2K.
bytes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, make it so that you actually store and reserve an area of 2K above basic and use that as a buffer for disk and load in from disk.
Yeah, but then you're
2K's worth.
complicating it by having to write a routine to pull that out and separate each subset.
Well, yeah, yeah.
If he's only got 32 rooms planned or even up to
Well, if it-
60 rooms or something.
Yeah,
he's fine.
you'll get away with it one by one, but
That'd be the easiest from a programming perspective because it's basically just to save M, pick one 1024, comma 1300 or whatever the end of your screen that you actually want to have the picture in, and that's it. And then when you want to load it in, you just type in load in your basic program. You do load M, pick one, and that's all you got to do. And now it's on the screen, so it's dead easy.
Yeah, that seems like a faster solution.
Yeah.
I don't really believe. Are people loading cassettes these days? I don't think so, right?
I think on the
This is-
Dragon is where you see cassette stuff still being used because that's a lot of them have Dragon, but most of the CoCo people know we have SDCs or emulators and we all use disk.
Yes, SDCs. That would be. I guess it's the standard, right? Nowadays. So an SDC is something like a disk system, in a sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe the disk solution might be a quicker path.
Yeah, from a programming perspective, if you're just learning basic and stuff like that and kind of getting your feet wet in it again, that would definitely be the easiest to program
Yeah, that's the
by
idea.
far.
All right, I'll consider
In fact,
that.
if you set up your program so you have room numbers, for your different screens, say you have 32 rooms of 32 graphics, you can actually just do a string equals quote pick quote plus str string room number, rm or whatever you want your variable to be, and then load m a string, and you're done.
Yeah, I see. I get it. Yes, I will definitely consider that. That's a high possibility. I will go that way for sure.
And then later on, we can get into the complicated stuff, and you can revise it later after that version's done for cassette, where you can do the tricks with ML and using the upper 32K
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. But this way, you get the game up and running.
Exactly, and I was in a mood to get this a little bit fastly done, right? For time reasons, when I get into certain projects, it's better for me to put a lot of dedication in a short time, because sometimes it takes a little while for time to be available again.
It'd be
And,
RAD development, like rapid application deployment type thing.
Mhm.
That's what it was. Get it so you can program it as fast as you can and get it out without having to worry about
and
optimize it.
probably
with-
when it's out, if it's anything good, we can all see to get it better, make it better.
And the unsupported semi-graphics modes are a bit of a challenge.
Sorry?
I said the unsupported semi-graphic modes are nice, and you can do a lot with it, but there was never any official support for it, so there's not a lot of software out there for it.
Yeah, I'll probably try to use the standard one.
Yep. Because then you can mix print statements with it at the same time that BASIC's already
Yeah.
supports. Yeah. So it's a lot less coding.
Get the letters going.
You don't want to break CoCo 3 compatibility.
Yes.
And that way your graphics pictures take absolutely no room out of your BASIC program at all. It's just pulling it off disk live. And the disk is fast enough, it'll load up one of those screens in like 0.1 seconds.
Yeah, it's nice and quick.
Where are you located, Erico?
In Brazil, south of Brazil, Santa Catarina state.
Cool.
Oh, okay. I'll finish what I'm doing.
I can ask you guys, does Eric, there's a guy in our forum is related to CoCo Max development back in the days. Is Eric Galvan or something like that?
Everluck?
Yeah, does he ever show up in CoCo Talk or something like that?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Not too often. He does post on Facebook on occasion though. Yeah, he helped. Him and Greg Miller did Color Max and 3 and Color Max Deluxe and a bunch of other things too.
Yes, I've discussed it with him for quite some time, a long time ago, about the artifact colors, right, on the color computer 1.2, and that was interesting at the time to create. I've created patterns from those artifact colors, and I was looking into probably writing a tool that you would draw that those patterns will be colors, and you would draw it in color in one screen, but it would keep the black and white version on the other, so that the black and white version could be transported to the color computer, and hopefully the artifact would look the same. And we discussed this for quite some time, and he had a pretty good solution that instead of writing a paint program for that, he wrote something like a mask program that would go over an already running program, let's say GIMP, and it would do this conversion. And I found that really interesting, but I didn't catch up with him later. So I was wondering if he's around, because he's got some pretty good ideas on that front.
Yeah, he was a graphics wizard back in the day. I mean, he did the original Mac viewer for looking at Macintosh pictures on the CoCo 1 and 2. He helped Greg, like I said, develop Color Max and Color Max 3 and Color Max Deluxe, which were Color Max Deluxe to me was the premier graphic editing program for the CoCo 3.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
And
I
Diego,
heard that.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say I heard that read an interview or something. I can't remember where I read it, but that they would write routines to do certain things like fill or whatever, and then they would rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it just to get squeeze out a few more cycles just to get the routines fast enough for it to not be sluggish, basically.
Yeah,
because it does have really fast routines, like fill routines and things like that are really fast.
Yeah, actually, there's a story in Nick Moreni's Coconuts book where he interviewed Eric, and Eric actually ended up working at Microsoft on Windows, and they were talking about doing some fat bits mode or something like that, and they were saying you needed a 386 or something to do that, and Eric goes, "No, you don't. We did this on a 1.78 megahertz CoCo 3," and I guess nobody believed him, and he actually brought the CoCo 3 in the office and showed them. And Bill Gates wandered by and, "Oh, CoCo, I helped write some of the ROM routines in that," and they had a little talk about it. So,
how cool is that?
So, Nick, is your book available? That's actually a pretty cool book to.
Well, the book isn't, but I've got the document file, so I guess I can send that to anyone who.
I'm just thinking, maybe you should, if you don't plan on ever selling it again, maybe just post it on your site.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give it some thought.
Either that, or just rake as much money out of it as you still can.
Well, that's right. Maybe I can make it a downloadable purchase. $50 a book. Okay.
What's the
that 50
discount? Discounts on sale this month. $50 off.
What book's that? I don't think I know about it.
It's a book I wrote. What, 20 years ago?
With a bunch of people from the CoCo community over the years. Greg Zumwalt's in there, and Eric Averill, Greg Miller, Chet Simpson, a whole bunch of people. I think, Nick, on your page, you have a project page where you actually kind of explain what the book is. It just doesn't have the book itself.
Yeah. I guess we can just give him the link to read up on.
Yeah,
on
throw it in the YouTube chat too, so everybody can see it.
Okay.
Not just here in the Discord. And while you're doing that, Diego, you were trying to ask something a bit earlier there, and we kind of got distracted. So, what was your statement / comment question?
No, actually, I'm just writing another game in semi-graphics mode.
Nice.
So, yeah, it was kind of a coincidence that Erico, who happens to be kind of my neighbor, I guess.
Where are you from?
That hey, he's probably closer to me than a lot of people from the U.S. and Canada are close to each other.
Yeah, because you're in Uruguay, right? And
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's very close. We got lots of friends from Uruguay, especially here in Santa Catarina, South State.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
If
I
you
always
choose-
wonder why the Brazilian CoCo clones never made it to Uruguay.
Yeah, that's what did you have in Uruguay at the time? Did you have the original American Coco or
Yeah,
clone or something?
yeah, a lot of TK90 and 95, the Spectrum clones. Those made it here. So.
Hmm. And you were saying about you were doing a semi-graphics game. Would you mind sharing? Got me curious. Sharing something about it. Let me just grab some drink here. Back in a second.
I don't know if is this working. Can you see the?
I can see your screen here.
we can see it.
So it's like you were saying, right? I'm just trying to make it work, and then I'm going to try to speed it up and see what can I make to have it go faster. But basically, it's you have these 4 ships. Okay, they're like container carrying ships, and you have the containers that you have to load on the ship, and the color tells you how heavy the container is, and you have to keep the balance. If you put the heavy ones on the edges, on the bow or on the prow, it just can sink the ship. So this one, the yellow one, it's kind of light, so I can put it around here.
Nice.
Then the green one needs to go on the other side to balance that out. Okay, I have a little green light on top of that ship that is telling me that the weight is still to the left, but not by much. So I can put this here, and I just have to keep going. Okay, I can load the other ships once I fill the bottom one.
That's a very interesting concept.
Yeah, it looks original. This isn't based on any other game, is it?
Nope. It's an idea I've been thinking about for a few months already. And
That in itself is cool because it's so hard to come up with an original game concept these days because the industry's been around so long. Pretty well everything's been done, so it's really cool to see.
Right.
I want to see one sink.
So okay, I can do this. So the ship is loaded and it goes
Nice.
away slowly.
I'm sure Nick and I can come up with some ideas to speed that up for you.
Darn
Yeah, I just need a little
Even in
machine
Street
language
Basic,
routine that will move the bits. Right now, I'm just picking and poking. So now you get a new ship at the bottom. I mean, the ships move down, and you get a new empty ship on top.
On top, right?
And you can keep loading.
So how are you drawing the ship in the first place?
I have an array with the codes, and I'm poking them on the screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you build it as a string and pre-build
As a string, yeah.
same, it would be way
Yeah.
faster.
You could just
Yeah.
print a string.
You can have
I
one
was-
string with a boat.
And
You can
print it 4
poke the boxes if you want, but yeah.
Yeah, I was going to do that, and for whatever reason that I can't remember now, I decided to just pick and poke. But when I started doing the part about moving the ship, I realized that if I printed it, it will be much, much faster.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because basically, if you make a string for each line of the ship, of which you've got what 3 lines worth of text there, I think, for your graphics.
Yeah, 3 lines.
If you do 1 of 3, if you want to have your ship scroll to the right, just print right string. 30.
Keep subtracting one from the value.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it would just basically shift the whole ship over really fast.
Yeah.
Any
And only the first line of the string will have to be updated whenever I drop a container on it.
Yeah.
Right.
So move it.
Are your containers always the same colors in the same order?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, they come at random, but usually on the game, you will want to
I
keep
see you're poking the boxes too.
In the middle. Oops.
Can
and
you
the green ones that are the lighter ones on the edges.
Can you sync a ship for us?
Yeah, it does nothing yet.
Oh, okay.
There's a bit of course, there's a bit of like not Tetris, but there's a bit of this elements from this kind of puzzling games into that. Where did you come there? How did you come up with the idea? It's pretty interesting.
I don't know. I don't know. I just started going around trying to figure out what I could do that was original. And okay, I'm going to be a little bit of a spoiler here, but I started thinking about doing it for a Christmas tree, for a Christmas game, where you will have the globes and everything that you put on the tree. And if you don't make the right balance, your tree will fall. And I said, okay, I want to do that game now. I want to do it now, but I can't have a Christmas game in July. What can I change the tree with? Okay, and I came up with the idea of using the ships.
And you could modify the code and put it out for Christmas too.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, there I sent the ship. And actually, for quite some time, what I was doing I have a spreadsheet. Let's see how I can share it.
Yeah, it's definitely an original idea. I've never seen anything even close to that.
So I have this spreadsheet that simulates the ships with the different positions, and I was doing all the math and numbers to try to get the balance.
The balance, right?
Mm-hmm. Cool.
It's the inner workings.
And here's the part that will be for the Christmas tree.
That's a cool game concept. I like seeing games because that's pretty rare these days.
And if you side load the tree too much, it falls over.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool. I like the idea.
Yep. I can have a cat go around and just trash your tree because that's what cats do.
Yep.
Then it can kind of become a sequel to your other game.
One of the cats from the other game escapes and trashes your tree in this one.
Yeah.
If I get it right, I'll try to do it also in high-res graphics. Because doing the graphics was the biggest challenge. Trying to decide what I will have there and how much room I'll have, and that actually kind of made me decide on how big the ship will be, how many containers I will feed, how many ships I will have. That was based on just the screen size. Because it was the space that I had.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I'll look around and try to change it to a string because
Yeah.
That way,
Another option, I guess, too, is if you use that C-basic compiler that was mentioned, because it sounds like it'll speed up semi-graphics like this, like you said, about 30 times. So even if you're using Poke and Peek in this case, if you go 30 times speed up just by compiling it, then that's an option.
Yeah, I've been looking at one of the compilers that was around, and it was kind of my program, the one that I was trying to do was using CoCo 3 high-res graphics, and it was kind of a pain I had to almost rewrite half the program, and I still couldn't get it to really work.
Oh, okay.
But this one, with semi-graphics, maybe it will work. Hopefully. I have forgotten about that. Yeah, I can check on that.
And of course, me being me, I'll suggest using Basic 09 and run it there too. But
Yeah, I have to talk to you one of these days about getting my OS 9 system back up. Thing is, I have Super IDE, and I have a card with my OS 9 installation, Nitros 9, and I used to boot from a real floppy, but I don't have the room to set up the real floppies anymore. So I need to figure out how to boot that image that I have on that disk.
do you have an SDC?
No, I don't.
Ah.
Yeah, because I don't think the IDE controller actually has a ROM to help you boot off that. So I don't know how you do. If you don't have a real floppy, you have no way to load the loader that's needed to talk to the IDE.
Yeah, no, it even supposedly has a way that you can boot from a virtual floppy.
Oh, over DriveWire, you mean?
The hard drive on the same card.
Yeah, if you boot up with DriveWire, if you have a ROM, it'll actually let you get to DriveWire or load the DriveWire drivers separately. Though you'd have to do that off cassette. If you don't have a floppy available, then you should be able to do it.
Yep.
I'd suggest just get an SDC if you can, because it's a lot easier.
And they're cheap, really.
Yep.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, with the shipping taxes, the SDC will be over $100 for me.
Is it?
Yep. Yeah, that's what I'm saving. Next year, I'm going to CoCo Fest, and I hope somebody has one for sale. Because if I start buying, I don't know, an SDC, 2 or 3 cartridges, and another few things, that pays half my plane ticket.
What cartridges would you be interested in getting? I guess the question. Are you talking game cartridges or what?
Yeah, some of the games that have been around, and maybe even a mini MPI or something like that.
Okay.
Also, I have my MPI, but I don't have the room to set it up.
You sound like Nick.
Yeah, I don't have mine, but I've got a CoCo SDC. Saves a lot of space.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, because I was wondering if you're getting retro cartridges like the original Tandy Radio Shack ones, well, you can just put the disk images of those on the SDC and then you don't need them. But if you're talking about the new brew ones that are out now, then yeah, you still need the originals.
Yeah, no, I do have a selection. I also have Sound Speech and Orchestra 90 and a few other things. But I want to keep getting the new stuff that's coming out. But again, $40 game cartridge with shipping and taxes ends up like in 70 or 80 for me.
Yeah, no, if you can make the fest and just bring it all with you on the plane, that would save you a ton of shipping and taxes. And
I'd rather slide some dollars under the table to the guy in customs. It's gonna be.
It's either that or you rent a boat. Stevie lives in Florida; he can rent a boat. And you guys can just meet, somewhere like or something like that, and exchange them covertly.
Yeah. But yeah, that's
somewhere off the coast of Venezuela.
But to me, out of everything you've mentioned there, the one that I would recommend the most would be the SDC, because that adds a whole bunch of functionality. It adds DriveWire stuff support built in, so you can get stuff off your PC too, as well.
Have you got a FD502 disk controller or the small disk controller?
I do have one of the small ones.
Is it a spare by any chance?
I'm not using it because
perfect. You just order the SDC board only from Ed, which I think is cheaper because it's designed to fit inside an FD502 case. You don't have to pay the extra $50 for a 3D printed case. That's what I've done. Mine's in an FD502 case.
That's something.
you have to cut any holes in that, Nick, to access
No,
the
no.
dip switches and
It
stuff?
was
or no?
designed to fit into an FD502 case originally.
Have you got a
Oh,
picture
okay.
of it?
How do you
I
access?
thought you needed the space for the switches and stuff, like the reset
Yeah.
button.
The back on the where you press the
No.
reset button. How do you press it?
No, it's all there. Hang on, I'll show you.
Yeah, take a picture of the back of it. I want to see how the
No,
reset
I'll
button is.
hook up my. Can I hook up my? I can hook up my video. Hang on.
Yeah.
Oh, when we go back, yeah.
I need to stop sharing first, perhaps.
Well, actually, I can just turn on my camera here, I suppose, and just hold the
Yeah,
camera.
just share it. Yeah.
There we are. So, can you see it there? I don't know if the light's any good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's perfect. That gives you
Wait till
plenty
I
of room.
try and turn the light on here. Don't know if that helps, but it's designed for that. Yeah, it's a bit dark.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, it all fits. It was designed to fit into a 502 case originally.
Well, that's not too bad. That's actually easier to press that button in.
Yeah, I can press the button, no problem. It's just there.
Okay, but if you wanted to access the dip switches to switch the ROMs.
Oh, but I never do. I don't have to switch it.
Because that would be the one thing you would have to change.
You could
have to
Yeah,
cut a hole
but you could just do run at, and then choose the ROM, and it just boots.
That's true.
So I never need to open it.
Oh,
Yeah, that might be a solution for you, Diego. That would save you a fair bit of money not needing
That
the
would
case.
save you $40-50 in just the plastic case.
Yeah.
Mine was just a board. I just put it in the 502K. Well, back when I bought mine from who was the guy who designed it again? I forget his name.
Atkinson.
Darren Atkinson. I bought this from Darren Atkinson before Ed started making them. So I bought the board, and it was designed for a 502 case, and I had a spare. I just put it in that, and it's been there ever since. Yeah, the cartridge even still says disk drive on the top. It's a 502 case. There's my multi-pack. I never plug it in. It sits on the side there. I don't want it.
It looks like an MC10 holding up your desk.
Well, it does, yeah.
Your CoCo 3 looks brand new.
It's
look how shiny it is.
It's not so much that it's brand new. It's the special ones that don't yellow. I'll just to show
plastic
that
on the one.
I'll just turn it off, unplug the CoCo SDC. Note the door on the side.
Oh, okay.
It's white.
Why is that?
Those particular ones are the very last generation CoCo 3s made in PAL ones anyway. I don't know if the American ones had that. They were made out of a different plastic. This plastic doesn't yellow.
Oh.
So it's as white as the day I got it.
Yeah, I feel ripped off.
Obviously, the keys aren't made from that same plastic.
No, the keys are still the same. They're a bit yellow, but the case does not yellow.
Yeah, look at it.
Yeah, and there's my FD. See, now you can see it. It's an FD502.
With the SD card hanging out the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
that's
all you need to do, Diego.
No.
No. Okay.
I even drilled a little tiny hole. You can just see the hole just there.
For the light?
For the light. And it's just a little tiny red light shines through it. Looks really good.
Might do that on mine, actually.
Yeah, if you've got a spare FD502, use that.
No, I've got one of them white cases that were made for it. I'll drill a hole through the top of it so I can see the light better. I put my hand around the back of it to see the light, to see if it's working.
You just see the light?
Yeah, we saw that. That's a nice little setup, that.
I don't know. To me, the Nick's desk just looks far too clean and tidy to be a proper
it is.
CoCo programmer's desk. I just don't.
Yeah, true. You could say that. Where's all the programming manuals and everything? I don't see nothing.
And the coffee stains and
yes,
I never have
chips all over the keyboard.
Yeah. Where's the pizza wrappers, like Chet says? When he codes, he's got pizza boxes everywhere.
Oh, this was the first run that Zipster did. He didn't have any cases, and so Tim Lindner made some.
Yeah, that's one with the plastic casing, isn't it?
Yeah.
The see-through, the iMac version.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I know. And they're very stellar.
But yeah, Diego, if you do manage to get an SDC at the next fest here, you can just download the U, throw it on, and you're ready to go.
Yep. Yep.
Which would be the easiest.
I've showed it on an emulator. We had the first ever retro computing convention here in Uruguay last month, and I showed. Well, nobody really knew the CoCo. Most people just at most have heard about it or seen a few pictures. Almost nobody has seen a real one. And of course, when I showed multi-view, they were just like, wow, okay, but this is just like whatever the Amiga has here, and you're telling me that this is half the RAM and 8-bit CPU, and it looks just like that? Yep.
Oh, cool. Did you take any videos? I wouldn't mind seeing that reaction there at the show.
It was on. You had it on CoCo Talk last time he was on.
Well, he had still photos, didn't he? I don't remember.
No, he took the video for us.
Okay.
Maybe
I was probably following
day.
it. I was probably not paying attention like Grant does.
You might not have been there that day. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, depending on when it was, because I did miss one or two. Yeah.
They love Gate Crasher also.
But yeah, if you do get into, if you do want to try to do a basic 09 port of that, even if it's just in an emulator for now, I can give you some help on that if you want.
Sure. Yep. I'm not sure it will like.
This being a programming after dark, maybe you can just show us how to do a hello world in basic 09 just to get us.
There you go. That would be cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
I wasn't supposed to be sharing this time because Stevie said I shared too much last time.
He's
not here.
He's not here anymore, is he?
You're very.
Oh, that's right. Stevie's gone. We got free reign of the show.
What he doesn't know won't hurt him.
And the cat's away.
You just pull your
That's
rank.
a lot.
You've been around longer than any of us, other than Stevie. Pull rank and just do your own thing.
There you go.
I'm just going to switch my VCC here to 6809 so I don't have any glitches
Everybody
because of
remember
hardware
that
divide.
Stevie and Curtis were a thing before any of the rest of us were. So.
I recall you said something that within BASIC OS 9, there was something like a header or something before that dictates which screen is to be used.
Sorry, what was that?
I remember the last time you talked about that BASIC program on OS 9 BASIC, there was this stuff before the hello world or something like that that would dictate which page to use.
No, that was to find out where OS 9 put the page for you, because when you assign a screen, because it's a multi-user multitasking operating system, you have no idea where that screen is going to be. This BASIC, it's always fixed. It's at 1024. But in OS 9, it depends like what other programs you've ran, if other users are logged in, et cetera, et cetera. So you don't know where the screen's going to be. So that little part at the beginning was just to ask OS 9, where did you put the screen so I know where to poke?
That's interesting. Hey Diego, do you happen to be on the Discord? Yes, right?
Yeah, I don't really go in there that much.
Because if you happen to take a look there on the LCB stream of conscious, I've posted black and white images of a game that has some ships, oceans and ships that might come to be useful.
Okay.
To you, at least inspirational wise. Not sure if it's actually useful. You get to see some there.
Which channel or whatever they're called here, you said?
It's the let me check here.
LCB.
It's LCB.
LCB, yeah.
On Teletalk.
Yep,
I've
that's
tried
Curtis.
some. Let me see if I can put this on the share here. You know.
I found it.
This image.
Yeah, if you actually view the images in the web browser, they can have links to them.
Oh, I can't share something from the computer. Motion, computer sound, content. Fuck.
All right.
Box.
I remember seeing the post, and I bookmarked it because I said, yeah, this is something that I should take a look.
It could be useful. There is a. Let's see if I land there here. Run. Here's levels. Number. Oh, here's what it looks like. Let's see if I can share this. Here's what it looks like. Can you guys see it?
Yep.
Not yet.
I can
Oh.
see it.
All right. So that's what it looks like, right?
Yeah.
I've got some ships here. It's supposed to be a word that wraps horizontally. Some ship. This is
So you'd be able to only view certain parts of this as you're going through the game on a semi-graphic screen.
Originally, this game, here's one. It's like each here's like each screen, right? The original game it wasn't actually completed, but a friend of mine coded a version for Game Bueno, like I told you guys before, and this resolution is pretty close to the semi-graphics, right? Where's Doom? You need the warm, right? You need warm on the desert. It's essential.
Shades of Dune.
All right. And here's the main city here, right? And this, let me get this. I did a test for the color computer. It would look like this. Where is it? Where is it? Things keep escaping.
Good old Windows 7.
Yeah, I dislike Windows 10. It's gonna take a while for me to change. I actually got Windows 10 on this computer. It took me a lot of trouble to get Windows 7 running on this system. But it's faster. It's faster for rendering and the other things I do. Damn it! I can't seem to find it. I was looking at it right now. It disappeared. Should be here. No. The references. Damn it! It's like all the time I want to show something, it disappears.
The joys of demoing.
Yeah, and then never organized computer desktop.
Is it the that one? Oh no.
No, it's just a bit
Down
of that
one?
screen. It's the similar to that screen we were looking at, but it's more it's for the color computer, and I thought that game could convert to computer really well. Well, doesn't matter.
Okay.
It'll probably come up at some point. Steve was asking stuff about if I have Photoshop files that are already within a pipeline for color computer drawing. I've got a bunch here. I have to set them up correctly at some point. Upload it. Yeah, it's like that's not really anymore. But anyway, yeah, share that. But still, that Diego, those kind of graphics might help you.
Yep. Yeah, I was looking at that, and I went to a little bit to Discord, and I noticed that post, and I said, yeah, this is something that may be very useful sometime.
Yes, I happen to be a super fan of the my graphics mode. Like it a lot. And on semi-graphic stuff, I did some. I was designing doing some design and game together with Machi some while ago, and still have to catch up with him. It sometimes, like I said, time is an issue, and we actually got something very far, and it looks pretty great. And hopefully someday he can be part of this show, and it would be interesting to show the things he can do. He can do some pretty good stuff in semi-graphics mode, like a sprite system and scrolling, multi-directional, and all that.
You did that little bouncing ball demo with semi-graphics too, if I remember, that I found as a video on the news here a couple months ago.
Yes, yes. As far as I know, it's an improvement on that. He has been improving his system for quite some time, and for the last demonstrations I saw or Cody sent me, it's very impressive, I tell you. And for people who enjoy the semi-graphics, at least like me, and it's a very interesting techniques. It's very interesting.
Where is he from? I don't know too much about him as a person, so.
Well, in fact, I don't know much either. It's he's a friend of mine from the GeoBasic forum, right?
Oh, okay.
We code in a modern basic language called GeoBasic, and I met him there in the forum for this past 10 years. And we always talked about color computer stuff. Within all the members there were like ZX Spectrum people, lots of Commodore people, and there's this one guy that knows the color computer. Great. Well, now we are now two. And we've always discussed games, and he always asked if I wouldn't want to get back into developing for the color computer. So
yeah, because he just released that clone of Combat from the Atari 2600 that actually had Ed Snyder's sound card support that ran in a semi-graphics 24, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, that was an unusual one, right? That's pretty great. But the stuff he can do with the normal one is really impressive. And hopefully one day we can have him over and discuss all that.
Yeah, I know he's active on Discord in the chats. I don't think we've really had him on the show yet, so that'd be cool.
Yeah, I've got some stuff here that we did together that I would love to show you guys because it's really interesting. But it wouldn't be fair if he's not around, right? It would be nice.
So it's a teaser.
A teaser, yeah.
Yeah,
so you're close to Diego, is that right? Or fairly?
Yes, Diego is fairly close. It's possible to drive, right?
Oh, okay, that's cool.
It's a bit of a long. I have to cross one Brazilian state, and then I get to Uruguay, and then it depends where in Uruguay he lives.
All the way south. So you're gonna have to cross.
You got to cross 2 states.
then that's a driving.
Yeah, but remember, Uruguay, it's what 500 miles.
Oh man. Where exactly do you live? Close to the beach?
Montevideo, all the way south. So it's on the Rio de la Plata.
That's only a Sunday drive, isn't it, for you guys?
Oh yeah, well, the United States is big. 500 miles is a drop in the bucket. Really?
Yeah, that's crossing one province here. So.
Oh, we do that. We've got to drive past what is it, 3 states or something just to get to the end of WA.
Yeah.
It's about, what is it, 4,000 odd Ks across?
It's
more than that, actually.
It's 8-9 hours by plane.
Yeah. So that says how big it is.
Yeah. It's almost like from one side of the US to the other, east coast to west coast.
It's really
almost
true.
Pretty close, yeah.
I drove from Ohio to Florida in one day, 1,500 miles, or is that around 1,500? Yeah.
Out. Well,
1,500 miles.
And then you slept for 2 days afterwards.
Well, the Trans-Canada Highway, if you want to cross Canada here, is 7,821 kilometers or 4,860 miles.
It's a ways.
Yeah, that's not a day trip.
Yeah, I definitely recommend flying because I flew to California or flew to Florida around that same time period, and it was like 3 hours with an hour layover in Atlanta. So one minute I'm standing in Ohio, and 3 hours later I'm in Florida, and I
Yeah.
spent an hour in Atlanta on my way down. So yeah.
Well, it beats the horse and carriages that they used to do 100 odd years ago.
Oh yeah.
Let me share something with you guys. With the let me tell you something, guys. With that GL basic language I told you guys, I met Machi and some other friends from coding. I made a few games, and I've got some released and some for some paid. So I'd like you guys to take a look. It's on the chat. There's 3 games on each show. They're for PC. The Burger Lord one, it costs some money, but it's a 3-player simultaneous game. If you guys would like to have a Steam code for that, we can provide that to you. So they are all low resolution games. It's the kind of thing I'd like to produce. I think I did a mock-up for the CoCo of the first game, the Burger Lord. It's probably possible on the Color Computer 3. And
Oh, yeah.
the last one, the Escape from Hadley's Hope, is most of my games I remade, remake of games I did back in the Color Computer for the PC, and the very first one down there is an example. Hopefully, I should release another one which was also based on a Color Computer game I did. And well, anyways, just something fun for you guys. If you guys would like to play that burger game, you can play with 3 people. It's somehow fun.
Pretty cool.
I can provide the keys for that. Some of these games have, how can I say, making of. And on the making of, you get the Color Computer mention and some mock-ups on how it was back in the days. This Moon Patrol type game, I made it so many times. It was one of the games I could make in high resolution. And I wouldn't use get input at the time. I would constantly hit draw the tank with draw commands or lines. And well, it would flicker a bit. Got the motion idea is back in the days. I think I have a, let's see if I find the Color Computer version of that.
Guys, I'm calling it a night. It's quite late here. It's been great talking to everyone again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Diego.
Yeah.
Take
Thanks for
care.
dropping by, Diego.
Thank you all.
And hit me up on Discord if you want to fiddle with the Nitrous 9 stuff from one of the emulators. I can help you out with the Basic 9 stuff.
Yeah.
If you need some work with the SG graphics for that, if you'd like me to give an attempt try at something, just to look, let me know too.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Take care.
Okay, see you, Diego.
See you.
So do you want to still me do that hello world thing there, Nick?
Oh, if anyone else wants to see it, maybe.
I mean,
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
If
There we
Erico finds his screenshot of his Lunar Rover Patrol style, Moon Patrol style game, I'll let him do that first. But
Sorry, I didn't hear.
You were going to show your CoCo version of a Moon Patrol style game that you said?
Yes, I was gonna find a screen for that. I don't have the game, but I made the game so many times I could probably rewrite it. I have a picture of this, probably on the Atari forum pages.
So I'll let you do that first before I do the Hello World Basic 9 thing.
All right, let me get to the. I'll post the. Oh no, then it's not here. It's gonna be a little bit hard. No, just go ahead, Kurt.
Next time, next week.
Okay. Now for this here, when I share the screen, is it better for the viewers if I do it on a 40 column screen or an 80 column screen? Like, is 80 column hard to read, or is it pretty easy to read?
I think well, for me, it's easy.
Go ahead and throw it up. Let me take a look at 80 column.
Yeah, if we can't see it, we'll tell you to switch.
Okay.
Only if the compression is really bad on the transmission, but it seems fine.
Can you guys see that 80 column?
I can
That's
see
pretty good.
I can see it good.
I
And then
can,
the
yeah.
40 column version if you want that instead.
80 was fine.
We'll see how it looks here in Facebook in a moment, or YouTube.
Okay, let me know, Mark, because I can switch over before I start doing anything.
Stream's running a little behind, so give it a moment.
That's the basic 09.
Nothing
And
wrong
those
with
little
low
weird blue
behind.
bars, that's a bug in VCC running on wine.
And I take it you can use the whole memory with basic
It's pretty
09,
small. Maybe you
right?
should go back to the 40.
Sorry?
You should
So what was
probably
that,
go
Mark?
back to the 40. Go back to the 40 column.
Okay.
That's,
yeah,
that's
it's
the
kinda
only
small.
eye.
Maybe because it's really small in the image.
Yeah. As far as memory, Basic 09,
Mhm.
the Basic 09 program itself has the debugger, the editor, and the actual runtime all combined. So in that case, you can go up to a 40K program for Basic.
Mm.
Once you pack it and run it under RunB, which is just the runtime, then you actually can make a program up to 48K. And then
Right.
you can also have modules linked to each other, unlink from memory, link in a different one. You can chain programs together. So literally you can make a program as big as you want, as long as you get a little more complicated.
And you can probably, if your CoCo tree has 2 megabytes,
Yeah, you can
are able to
preload all the
use-
modules so that they instantly run out of memory or run from memory as soon as you tell them to run. You can also
Okay.
fork other programs from Basic 09, so you can tell it to run a machine language program, a C program, a Pascal program, a logo program, an actual command from OS9 itself, all kinds of things. So
And the upper bank technique we were talking before, using the upper 32K on Color Computer 2. In this case here, you would probably be able to switch banks over the whole 2 megabytes.
I would probably just create separate modules for those and just link them in as I needed them. They'd actually be preloaded into memory. You wouldn't need to do any of that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just clearing some thoughts. Go ahead.
Okay. Actually, I probably should show the beginning here too. So here's the command prompt, the shell, and you just type Basic 09. Now you can specify the number of K you want. I'm in the case of a hello world, I don't need a lot, so I'll just use the default. So if I type the word mem here, it tells me I currently have 8,191 bytes allocated.
All right.
So if I want to edit a program, now normally if I'm doing actual development of a full-blown program, I'll do it in a text editor, another window, and just load it as I go. But I'll just use the built-in editor here. So I'll edit program. You can type the name of it. I'll just call it hello for hello world. And it'll automatically create procedure hello. And then if you want to print hello world, you just do. Whoops. And I'll quit the editor and then I'll run. There you go.
You forgot the comma.
Sorry, what?
I think you forgot the comma after the O and hello.
Yeah, I also capitalized world too, but whatever.
Yeah.
This isn't English class. This is programming.
Sorry, I'm nitpicking.
So
Anyway,
for
there,
those. for
Yeah,
the
and then in this
full-
case, you notice I did not use a line number,
Oh, I was about to say that.
Yes.
which is optional. You can do it. So if I want to change. So there's my new
Ooh.
listing now has a line number in it. Still runs the same.
So is that line number though just a label essentially?
Yeah, and I mean, there's some things like on air go to requires a line number because that's to know what line to go to. But
So you can't go to a label.
no, OmniBasic on OSK and the PC and stuff actually added that functionality. I can't remember if Microware Basic for the OSK did too, but no, it's just line numbers in here.
I see.
But you
only
have
as
whiles.
necessary.
Yeah, you have while loops and repeat untils and all kinds of other stuff. So you really don't need line numbers except for on air go to and
Right.
Do you have if and if?
yep.
Yes.
If else and if, yep.
That's great. That's something I kind of like miss in the.
Nothing you can't solve with an if statement.
Do you have to have
That's
everything with
for,
line numbers, or do you just put line numbers on the ones that you're going to use, like the on air? Or
Yeah, just the ones you need them on.
Yeah.
So you can write entire chunks of code without any at all.
Wow. Nice.
And it has auto indentation and stuff if you're listing, programs. Let me just change to.
They're all magic.
There's some source code included on the ease of use too that you guys can take a look at if you want to see how some other programs are doing things. Okay, what have I got in here? So the $sign signifies fork a shell and run a program from OS9 itself. So I just told it to run the directory command.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, that's new. That's all new to me. So you said you can compile this program after instead of running it from the editor, you can compile it.
Yeah, because if I do a directory right now, it'll tell me that my program called hello, the program size is 51 bytes, the data size it's using is 22 bytes. And if I pack it, it will try to shrink it. Like it'll strip the line numbers out, strip rems out. It'll, fully tokenize, and that'll give you more room and also make it so you can execute it directly from the shell. You won't need to be in Basic 9 anymore to run it.
So it's just a command line executable at that point.
Yeah. And there's some utilities in OS 9 that actually are done that way. I'll switch to 80 column. I don't know how well this is going to show up, but I'll just run GP map, which is get put buffer map. And this lists all the get put buffers that are currently in the system. So you see you've got a bunch of fonts. The question mark ones are special ones for G shell. Standard pointers is like the arrow pointer, the hourglass, and some other ones you probably haven't seen yet. Patterns, standard pattern 4, 16. Those are 4 color patterns, 16 color patterns. They're 32 by 8 blocks of graphics where you can define for different colors to do like cross hatching or slash lines. And then if you tell a command to paint using that pattern, instead of painting a solid color, it'll actually paint with that pattern. You can also draw bars, like boxes and stuff using those patterns as well. Filled circles will use that pattern. So those are for the different color modes.
Yeah.
Here's
Couldn't
some
you
more
do something
fonts.
similar in BASIC? If you poked certain areas, it would change. the
BASIC
picture?
had the ability to poke a single byte value. So whatever mode you're in, if you're in a P mode 4, for example, do an 8 pixel vertical pattern. So you could print stripes and stuff. Or if you're in P mode 3, you could do like a multicolor paint of up to 4 lines horizontally. But this actually does a 32 by 8 pattern of 32 pixels wide by 8 pixels high, which you can mix any combination you want. So it's more of a full-blown pattern. It's like the stuff you saw in Color Max.
Right.
Those little blocks at the bottom there.
Like a sprite, essentially.
Yeah. So this year, that GP map program, if I ident it, which is to identify the system parts of what it exactly is. Oops. It's in the commands directory. Let me fix that. You'll see at the bottom, it says subroutine module, basic 09 I code, reentrant, and RO. So it's a basic 09 program. It's a compiled basic 09 program. Subroutine module means it needs run B as the primary module. That's the library that controls running it. Or you could use basic 09 itself, which has the editor and debugger in, as I mentioned before. But basically, it's a self-executing program that you just type GP map, and it actually knows that it needs run B. So run B loads, and then GP map loads, and it just runs it. And you can make as complicated of programs as you want. The icon editor that Nick's been using and you've seen pictures of in Discord, and I think I've demoed it on here before, it's going to be on the next easy use beta, is a series of, I think, what is it now, 10 or 11 modules. 3 are little assembly language routines to speed up a couple of specific things. And the rest is all basic 09 subroutine modules, and modules can call each other. So that whole program is basically a basic 09 fairly complex program.
So it does graphics as well?
Yeah. There's several ways to do it. Like in OS 9 for the CoCo, even level 1 for the CoCo 1 and 2, as well as level 2 for the CoCo 3, you use display codes, as they're called. Most of them are escape sequences. There's some other control characters too that do certain things. There's standard ones that most machines have, like character string 12 clears the screen. But you also have stuff to tell it what graphics mode to go into. And in the case of level 1, you've also got like a fill command, which is a paint. You can plot points. You can change where the graphics cursor is drawing from. You can draw lines. You can change the colors, change the modes. You can do that through print character string, blah, 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 and actually write out the string sequences that are in the manual. Or you can use the GFX subroutine module, which is a little program that actually translates English to these sequences. So you don't have to memorize, what sequences are what. In that case, you just run GFX line 1,5 to 15,20, and it'll draw the line.
Isn't there also a display command? Because I remember.
Yeah, that's from the shell. Yeah, that's the way to do those same things from the shell. Now, I did see like people when they first started doing Basic 09, they knew about the display from the shell, so they would actually go into Basic 09 program and do shell quote display C quote, which means the Basic 09 program forks a shell, which then forks the display command that then writes 10 bytes to the screen and then comes back. So it's basically created a 16K chunk to run a shell and a 16K chunk to run display. So your program to clear the screen is now taking run B plus your base9 program plus a shell plus its data area plus the display command plus its data area. So it's taking like 40K, 48K just to clear the screen.
Oh, so it's turning into a modern system.
Yeah, exactly. It's running like Windows 10 at that point. It's just forking a whole bunch of stuff that's unnecessary when you could literally just do a print character string 12 or the run GFX.
Yeah, just out of
Is a little bit-
curiosity, once I took I created using Xcode, you can create applications for the iPhone. So I created an iPhone app. I put down a text box and I typed in "Hello World" in the text box. And I compiled it, and just to see the size of it, and it was like 35 megabytes or something like that.
Yeah.
Just to, just to print "Hello World" on the screen, because you just so much gets loaded by default without you specifying anything extra.
Yeah.
Bloatware. That's what we call it.
Yes, exactly. So here, this is probably the simplest way to do it. There's some other ways you can do it too. You can even use system calls and stuff that you could talk directly to the OS. But I just added a character string 12. Semicolon works the same as this basic. It basically means don't put a carriage return on it. So if I run that now, it'll kill the screen and print "Hello World." Now you can do that using the GFX module, which, like I said, makes things in English because you have to memorize character string 12 to clear the screen. Character string 1 means home the cursor, but don't clear the screen. And there's a ton of them for drawing graphics and stuff too.
We might see Nick starting to do something in Basic 09 pretty soon, I reckon.
Well, let's not get insane here.
Define pretty soon.
Well, but
By the way,
also,
Sometime
Curtis,
this century.
Sorry, what was that, Mark?
Sometime this century.
Maybe. And John, sorry, you were saying
yeah, well, like if you do fork a shell to use the display command and then come back, aren't those unloading as well? Because I mean,
yeah, you get the memory back. It's just that initial having to initialize a process, like in Unix, forking a process. It's doing the exact same thing under OS 9. So you're forking a shell, and that shell's forking display. So now your program is now literally 3 programs all running as children of each other, just to run that bit. And then it returns all the memory and stuff back. But I mean, that setting up takes some time. Plus, it has to load the shell or load the display command from disk if you don't have it preloaded, or it loads the shell even from if you didn't have the shell preloaded. So it's much slower and it takes a lot more memory. And to me, it's just sloppy programming because it slows things down unnecessarily. You really didn't need to do that.
Right. So you're saying you could do it from. So what's your other alternative from other than the display command or the GFX command?
Well, you can print the
GFX?
character string sequences yourself manual, like I did here originally with the character string 12. Which is basically the equivalent of a clear screen. It's like CLS.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you cleared the screen we were talking
And character
about.
string is an actual keyword in Basic 09, so it's not loading anything external whatsoever. It's just doing a print, basically.
It's clearing the screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I see what you're saying. It would be sloppy to eat up 2 16K chunks just to clear the screen, even though you're getting that back. It's a lot of overhead.
Yeah, but a lot of people, I mean, I saw a lot of programs when I was starting to put stuff together for the ease of use, and there's a few of them I actually changed because I just thought that's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, script kiddies, they've figured out a way to do it. Oh, this is easy. I can just shell out to the terminal and execute a command.
Yeah. And then basically, I think a lot of it was a learning curve because people weren't used to. They were going, "Oh, you can run any command from OS 9." Well, I already know the display command, so I'll fork that up with a shell, and it runs. I mean, it does work, but once you start learning, and how it actually works behind the scenes, you're going, "Oh, wow, I'm using 48K to clear the screen."
I prefer just CLS. It was so simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's where the GFX module comes in because you can do a equivalent of that too. I'm just trying to remember what it is for the. Ah, here we are. Oh, that's the graphics one. I want the text one.
That's forked up.
Yeah. Now, if you're doing level 1, CoCo 1 and 2 stuff, you use the GFX. Now, since I'm in a 40 column screen, that's not going to work. So I'm going to switch to GFX 2, which is the CoCo 3 stuff. And then that one, I think, is just clear. Yeah. So you do.
Much overhead with GFX 2 is there?
That does the same thing. But now you'll notice if you do a dir, it's actually linked in the GFX2 module into your workspace. And it keeps it there because it figures since you're editing in Basic 9, You may want to run some more of those commands. So I'm not going to bother unlinking it at this point.
Especially
But you can manually tell it to get rid of it if you know that you're not going to be using it again.
And
That
it's only
seemed to be
2,400
slower.
bytes, so
That seemed to be
this is
slower
slower
at
than-
clearing the
it's-
screen.
It is a little slower. It'll be especially slow the first time when it has to link it in. Once it's linked in, it's just,
Oh,
what
okay.
else can you do with GFX2 though? You said you could draw lines and other stuff.
oh yeah. I mean, you have access to the entire graphics library and the text library, so you can do all kinds of things in there.
Yeah, for
I'll show you.
2,400 bytes that are constantly linked. Big deal.
Yeah.
It's only
Exactly.
2,400 bytes.
You're not
Or-
limited to 8K. You could go.
And some of those display sequences get pretty complicated. They can be like 12, 14 bytes long with a bunch of parameters you got to figure out in hex and stuff like that too. So I mean, it's a lot easier just to remember, circle rather than, or ellipse or something like that, rather than having to figure out, it's display 1B 5205 blah 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 type thing.
Yeah, 1B is 27, which is the escape sequence.
Escape, yeah. Which most of the level 2 stuff is based on escape sequences. Most of the level 1 stuff is not. Though some of the basic text stuff is still single character.
How big is the memory allocation block?
What do you mean by memory allocation block?
When you're mapping in a process space, the minimum
Oh, it's the
size
same
of
as MMU. So it's basically an 8K chunk. So if you have a 14K module, it's going to take 16K.
Yeah, that's why we used to
2,400
merge
bytes.
everything.
Yeah.
2,400 bytes is going to take more than 2,400.
It's going to take,
bytes.
it has to map an 8K MMU block into your space. Now you can merge modules together. And actually, if you take a look at the GFX2 module.
Yeah, that's got a mixture of a few in it.
Yeah. So if I ident, I'll do the short version just to list the module names here, but run B, I think I actually got it. So the run B module is taking a 16K chunk, because run B itself is about 12K. That's the entire runtime library of all the routines that Basic 09 has. And then we also have the in-key routine, which is for getting keys, GFX2, which is all the graphic stuff for level 1 and level 2, or for level 2, I should say, and all the windowing stuff. And then syscall, which is a way to call API calls in OS9 itself. And then GFX for level 1 graphic stuff. All that merged together is still 16K. So run B by itself, if you just loaded it, would take 16K. And then if you loaded GFX2 separately, it would take another 8K to map that in as well. Since we pre-merge these together and they all fit within 16K, it takes 16K for all of this combined, which is the same as run B by itself. So you're not losing anything doing this, and then everything's
No.
preloaded for you and faster.
It's giving you an option to put more stuff in memory.
So that working with the 8K blocks, I mean, Basic does kind of the same thing when it's doing graphics and stuff too, and even the screens do that. So it's just a way of preserving memory and having everything preload that way.
Just a
so
shame.
run B is the module that executes the Basic 09 code.
If you're running it standalone, yes. Basic 09 has run B built into it, but it has to have that built in because the debugger has to be able to link to that kind of stuff, and actually will list, your line number you're currently executing. Like if I did a
From what I've learned, Basic 09 is actually like P code, like the Pascal. It actually
Yes.
crunches down.
I code is what they call it, but yeah.
Yeah, so it's that same concept. It's the crunch down to tokens. It then has to have a runtime environment to actually execute it.
Right.
Like here I ran with Tron trace on, and it actually gives you the memory offset that's 000F. That's a memory offset in the basic code. And that line number just executed. And if there's any expressions to evaluate, it'll tell you them. Like it could be variables. In this case, it's just a string quote, a constant. So it's just saying hello world equals hello world means that's what that is. It actually printed the one for the character string 12, cleared the screen too. But of course that disappeared when they cleared the screen.
Where'd it go?
So in this case here, we got the run GFX2 clear, which is doing character string 12.
So there's a lot of basic, like RS-DOS basic coders out there back in the day. It's a shame they never went to Basic 09 and done the stuff in there, because Basic 09 is simpler to use than RS-DOS when it comes to doing all
Yeah, and
this
it's more
stuff.
powerful and it's faster, and there's a ton of things, but you needed OS9 to run it. And because Radio Shack and Micro had this licensing thing that you could not include the Run B module with a third-party commercial product, then
Yeah.
people had to be smart enough to know how to link that in themselves to the Basic 09 program that you bought, or Run B program that you bought, because they needed the runtime module, which they were not allowed to include on that disk unless you paid licensing fees, which nobody did.
Nah, it was just
You had to buy OS9 first, and you had to have the knowledge to put Run B mixed with whatever third-party product you bought, and that was a bit of a pain in the ass for everybody. It's kind of like
or
Sundog.
you just go out and buy software that actually had all those stuff in it. That's what we did to get around that little loophole. We just go out and buy software that had the loader for OS9 too, and all we did was just mix everything that we wanted into it. And
Yeah, but you had to be knowledgeable enough to do that. And most people wanted just off the shelf, pop the disk in, type DOS, and you're up and running. And that you could not do legally. I mean,
that's where we just got the manual books, like the one that the Rainbow brought out, like those 3 guys created. The white, yellow, red colored book. And it was all based on OS9. And then inside Windows.
Oh, yeah, the Rainbow Guide to Level 2.
Yeah. If you went out and bought all them, that pretty much told you how to take stuff from one disk and bring it into another.
To do that. But the reason that Run B basic online programs never really got sold that often was because you had to buy
the restriction.
online. Yeah, and it wasn't as easy to set up with disk basic stuff. I mean, because every color computer had the ROMs built in, so you never had to worry about guy doesn't have basic, type of thing. Whereas Level 1 in particular, when you bought OS9 Level 1, you got the assembler with it. You didn't get basic on. That was an extra package. You had to pay an extra $80 or whatever it was to buy.
Yeah, that was a scam and a half. That one.
It was good when Level 2 came. Yeah, when Level 2 came out, they were smart. They included the language that most people would try to learn with first, not assembly. That's a bit of a jump. Okay. Does anybody know if we're still streaming?
How many people are watching us now?
To 8 currently.
There's 8 on Facebook, and I think there's like 2 on. 2 on Facebook and 8 on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm seeing 8 on YouTube right now. I'm just trying to load the stream to see if it's working, and no, it's working.
Yeah, it's still going.
It's choppy and slow, but it is working.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's behind, so it could crash.
Yeah, and they should be able to compress this because I mean we're just showing a screen, right? That's not even doing anything.
Yeah, and YouTube's not shy about compressing.
No. Yeah, they included Basic 9, like the easy to learn language with Level 2. It came with it. You didn't have to pay extra for it, so that helped. But the licensing was still a problem. And Sundog did the same thing. The Graphic Express package that Jeff Steidel did, which had all the multi-voice music that you could run from Basic and sprites and window clipping and all that stuff. If you read the manual, you had to get licensing from them to sell any game. So that's why nobody ever used it either. Plus, it wasted a lot of memory in Basic that you can only write smaller programs.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
That was pretty advanced back in the day, that little suite of software in that.
Yeah, no, it was pretty good. If you were on the demos, it's actually quite impressive.
Yeah. There was another guy that brought out something like that too. Dr. Offenheimer or Hoffman or something. He created another type suite like that too.
Just trying to see here. What would be a good one to run here?
Who's got the cat going?
Mark. Oh.
Not my cat. Somebody water that damn cat. Oh, my cat decided to say something about that.
Yeah, I remember back in the day when OS9 Level 2 came out, there was a lot of chatter about how, there was finally a proper operating system for the color computer, and it's a really good one, for such an inexpensive machine as a color computer, that it had such a well-made, proper operating system in terms of capability. And I know there's been a lot of work since then to prove it, but
Oh, this is a good demo here.
you know, the basic concept of it, just, you know, very Unix
Well,
like.
I don't think any other 8-bit computer at the time could
Had
run
it.
anything.
Yeah,
like
not
that.
Windows, not multitasking and Windows and that. I didn't
Yeah,
see nothing.
multitasking, Unix type OS
Multi-user, didn't it support
Yeah.
like up to 4 users?
and multi-user. Yeah,
Yeah, it was advanced for an 8-bit computer.
yeah.
Yeah, when OS 9 Level 2 got released, I mean, Windows was on version 1.03, which didn't allow overlapping windows and didn't multitask for crap, and
Yeah,
it was way behind.
Yeah, well, it took them time to copy Apple.
Well, even Apple back then was doing not, they were doing cooperative multitasking, not preemptive, and OS 9 was doing preemptive already.
Yeah.
Yeah, the quote switcher for Macintosh was kind of a novel concept.
Yeah. So this here's the get put text demo I demoed on the show like, I don't know, months ago.
A couple of months ago, yeah.
But you can see, like, I've got, you know, I'm dimming some stuff that is their integers. I'm dimming stuff that is variables, you know, different sizes of strings. And then I've got some like JFX2 commands like DWN means device window end. That means close the current screen window I'm on. The one following that is DW set device window set. And that's saying create a new window. Because I'm taking whatever the window you're running off of, whatever type you have, I'm changing it to an 80 by 25 hardware text screen with foreground color 2, background color 0, border color 0 is what all that means. And then I'm doing a clear, which is clearing the screen. Then I'm doing some prints, which obviously that's the same as you would do normal basic.
but that's simply laid. That's a simple layout that you can actually understand it by just looking at it.
Yeah, exactly.
What it's doing there.
Another nice thing with Basic 9 too is, unlike this Basic, which you have a limitation, your variables can only be up to 2 active characters long. You can make them longer, but it ignores everything past 2. And I think I mentioned this before. But Basic 9s basically are limited to the amount of RAM you have. So if you want to make a 32 character variable name to make it nice and clear what you're doing, you can. And you'll see here, like, I've got back color, which is 9 characters, and it's unique. If I did back color 2, that's a different variable, and it knows that.
So you mean I can say anti-disestablishmentarianism equals 1?
Yes. And whatever you said, 2 would be a different variable. There I'm saying colors. There I'm doing a put. There's your if then end if that we were talking about earlier. The if x position greater than 77 or x position less than 1.
And also the indentation.
Yeah, that's all automatic. I usually do the indentation when I'm editing it in a text editor or another window, just because it makes me figure out if I forgot to do an end if or an end loop or something. But when you do list the program in Basic 9, it's smart enough to know what loop construct keywords are, and it'll actually do the indentation for you. So you can see with the end ifs, and you can see the loop, everything inside the loop's pushed over. Once I get down to the end loop, I've got an exit if, so you want to exit the loop. In this case, I'm checking to see if the key's not empty. In other words, you pressed a key, then it'll exit. So in this case, I'll just run this little program. So it does a little bit of description here, kind of explain what the program does. Tells me my ID number, which is the process number. Every program running has its own unique process number that's similar to other operating systems. I'll just do a proc here in another window just to show you. So the first column is the process ID. The system always gets the first one. And then the initial shell on the terminal window is 2. Basically, none that I'm running right now is process 3. And I've got the proc command I just ran as process 4. And then I've got some shells in other windows, window 1 and window 2, which is W1, W2, of processes 5 and 6. So I've got 6 programs running simultaneously right now. And this is just bouncing a text window around on the screen using get put. Now it's flickery because I'm not pausing it between get and put, but.
Also, we don't know how well Zoom's picking it up.
Yeah, it's probably worse on your end than it is on mine. It's flickery on my end. So I didn't write it to be optimized for display. I just wanted to prove that you could do a get put on a text screen.
Nice stuff.
And there I just ended. Now it ended, unfortunately, with a rather gross looking color combo here. Blue on red. So I will fork a shell to run that display command that John was talking about.
Well, that's better than green.
Better than nuclear green?
Yep.
Oh, now it's blue on black.
Yeah.
Make the text white.
Color here. Let's do that. There we
There
go.
you go.
So that program, which is taking a little get put window and bouncing it around on the screen, which if you're doing that in BASIC would be a fairly lengthy program. Didn't you?
Yeah,
Is just that. That's the whole thing.
it was pretty advanced. That you could say that about Basic 09.
Yeah, the nice powerful thing about it is that the JVX2 module, aside from making things English-wise, has actually got a lot of stuff. Like if you go through the level 2 manual, I mean, you can control overlay windows and you can do, all kind of graphics primitives. It's got really fast line bar routines and CLS routines for graphics. Text is built in to work on a graphic screen. In BASIC, you can do HPrint, which means you can print at a certain location, but it doesn't do screen scrolling for you. It doesn't interact with you. Like if you want to have something where you're typing in something and it's showing up on the screen, you have to write a little routine to like do an in key, then do an HPrint of that one character in key. Here it's just normal. It's as if the graphic screen is treated the same as the text screen. So if I wanted to run, a Basic 09 program on a graphic screen, I just have to tell it switch to a graphic screen and just run it. I don't have to worry about doing anything special.
Could you run Fractalus on there?
Fractalus? Yeah, I could.
Yes.
I'll do that in a little bit. That's not really a programming thing, but yeah, I could.
I just want to see the speed for updating to a high-res screen.
Oh well, Fractalus is written in machine language, so that's kind of not a kind of a bit of a cheat. But if you want to see what a get put buffer looks like, I can run the bouncing ball demo because that's a packed Basic 09 program. I can if I got the source in here or not.
Jeez.
Might have it in the demos directory, maybe.
I just wanted to see what the operating system overhead would be added to that. I've seen the game on other machines.
Well, I'm cheating a bit here because I've got one that I've been slowly optimizing, so it's running a bit faster than the stock one did.
Yeah, you have got an increase in speed of that one that you've been mucking
Yeah, it's
around
not
with.
huge. Like I've got maybe 10% on the 6809 version, which is running what I'd be running here in BC.
But that is still, you can see the difference in the speed when you've put the stock, your nitrous, and the other one, when you're done in YouTube, you can see the difference in speed.
Yeah, David's actually got a video that kind of demonstrates the stock OS 9, then the 6809 optimized one, and then the it's not 6309 optimized, it's just running native mode. But that gives you an extra 10% on top. So the 6309 version is running about 20% faster, and I haven't put any 6309 specific code in it yet.
Yeah, so you can see what's going to happen.
David, since you're here, can you post the link to that video in the YouTube chat so people can take a boo at it?
Oh, do I have to?
Yes, dear.
Of course not.
Okay, honey, give me a moment.
David's back.
Creeping up.
Oh, yes, Nick, I missed you too.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, here we are.
It's way past his bedtime.
Nick. Right.
So here I'm just listing the bouncing ball source code, the Basic 09 source code, which has a little bit of a preamble by Kevin Darling, who wrote it when he wrote the fast griff package. Now that was a package like the original stock get put buffers on OS 9 were pretty slow because basically they did translation between the different color modes. So if you did you got something off a 2-color screen, you want to put it on a 4-color screen, it still works. It would actually translate it to the appropriate. So it was quite slow, and he did a lot of optimizations, including the Christmas fast griff patch, as it was called. Now, Nitrous 9 has taken it even beyond that. It's faster than even his was. But basically here he's doing a shell load balls, which is basically just a shell script that just loads in the 8 get put buffers of the ball in the various rotations. And then
No comment, David.
And then the GFX2, he does, he sets his colors and clears the screen, and then he changes it to a graphics mode, in this case, a 320 by 192. And then he's doing basically cursor XY to put some text on the screen. Then he rotates the ball in space with put, which is like, put in this basic. He rotates the ball in place for a bit. Then he does page flipping. This is one advantage that GFX2 and Basic 9 and Nitrous 9 have over this Basic 2, is that even the high-res screens for the CoCo 3, you can do page flipping. Whereas on Disk Basic, normally you can only do one H screen. You can't page flip between them to do smooth animation. In fact, you're not limited by 2. You're limited by the amount of memory and up to 16 windows simultaneously. You can actually control 16 from one program if you wanted to. And you notice because I'm just listing a text file, I'm not listing this in Basic 9, it's not doing the auto indenting. If I load it in Basic 9 listed, it'll actually do the indenting for for next loops and loop or end ifs and stuff. And then he does the actual bouncing routine here, which checks directions and changes the palette if it's hitting a wall on this left or right side.
Does Basic 09 support multi-statement lines?
Yes.
Right.
You put a backslash to separate the commands.
Okay.
Now, because it makes the code harder to read, it's usually not recommended because once you pack it, it's the same size anyway. You're not saving memory like you are with regular Basic. But yeah, no, if you want to do that, you can. So that's the bouncing ball source code there. And I'll run the pre-packed version here from G Shell just because it's easier.
Reckon you could ever get Kevin Darling to come on this chat thing?
I've tried.
And no reply.
He kind of hinted that he might do it. He was really busy with work the last time I asked him.
Yeah.
And he also said that his CoCo stuff is all in a storage unit in a different state.
See, pretty cool to get him to come on, but...
Oh, yeah, and those stories he would be able to tell would be just insane.
Yeah.
Joe, let me ask something, Curtis.
Yep.
That graphic user interface, what's the deal with it? It's
this one here, you mean G Shell?
yes, that's something you run from the system, and is it just like a file manager? What can you do in this?
It's a combination of a very simple file manager and a very simple app launcher.
Hmm.
So it does both duties, but it doesn't do either greatly. we've been improving it, and
looks like you can print too.
It gives you a point and click interface.
Yeah,
for a lot of people.
I think
for example,
it looks pretty great. It reminds me of the later Amiga operational system,
especially the trash can.
And you can switch modes in here too, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, Nick, you should just put your signature on the side of the trash can.
Right now we've got KDM, which is Kent Myers, and LCB, which is me, because Kent did all the original work on getting this done, and then I started fiddling with it, I think about 98, 99 when Kent gave me the source code.
And that's running 4 colors, right? Yes.
Yeah, this one is. I mean, I can switch into 16 color, and then you'll watch it slow down because all the get put buffers are 4 colors, so it has to translate them all on the fly. So you can actually draw it because it's converting 4 color graphics, expanding them out to 16 color graphics.
All right. And what about those the fonts and the graphics? Where did they come from?
It depends. The fonts, there's some fonts that came with level 2 to begin with, and we've added a ton. In fact, it's a slow load times on the ease of uses because I'm loading all of them, just so that programmers can know I've got these 48 fonts. I know the font numbers. If I want to use any of the special characters in any of these fonts, I know I have them available. I don't have to worry about somebody didn't put them on their disk image or has a different font number for the same font or something like that. I wanted something standardized. So that's where the fonts come from. The get put buffers, there's a few built into G Shell itself, like the drive icons here on the left and the printer and the much heralded trash can that Nick did are built into G Shell itself. And then the other ones here that you see for the apps, those are actually created by the people that wrote the app or somebody else, like Nick's been making some for the upcoming Ease of Use Beta 5.
So I'll have to show them.
Yeah, so basically those you can create yourself. You can change them. These are basically just text files. If you remember Windows 3 when they had, what are they called? PIF files? Program interface files?
Yeah.
Adding some specs on the program. That's exactly what these are. These are AIFs, technically. So I'll list one of these. I guess I have to click it first. So it's just a little text file and has the name of the program. There's an optional memory specifier, which in this case is blank because it doesn't need any extra memory. It tells you where the icon is and what it's called. And then it has stuff, specifying the window type and the size of the window and the default colors in the window. So it's basically just a little text file you set up for your program. And some programs can run on any type window or can be resizable. So you can specify, a screen type and specify a size that's smaller than it knows it's a resizable window. So you can mix it with other programs on the same window. Other ones take the full screen like this particular one does.
Pretty nice. About the aesthetics into everything. Did you guys create it?
Which one?
Curtis, the aesthetics. He likes the aesthetics.
Yeah,
He's
you guys-
Yeah,
Curtis
this is not
is
the original aesthetics. The original
yeah.
aesthetics is gross.
Especially
mean,
the
it-
trash can.
Oh, the
We
trash can
created
is
the
just the
Yeah.
we created the 3D.
Everything else is not aesthetic according to Nick, except the trash can.
Well, we all know what Nick thinks about OS 9.
The original multi
I'm-
when it came out in '87 though was based more on the Macintosh old black and white interface or the Windows 1 interface style. So it was much simpler. There was no 3D border look. The icons were very plain. And then when Kent took it over, he updated a fair bit of it. And the level 2 version 3 upgrade that wasn't never officially released, and then also Nitrous 9, we added the 3D look. Actually, we did that independently. We didn't know each other had done that. We did it independently. Ours looks a little
We
bit.
did it actually at the same time that Kevin did it.
Well, I think Kevin and them did it earlier than we did, but they couldn't tell anybody about it because that was part of that whole contract with Microware and Tandy until Tandy canceled the CoCo 3. So, but they did it slightly differently than we did. Like they replaced the Tandy icon, which is this little thing here, which is the TC from the Tandy Corp logo. They replaced it with a coffee cup or something, if I remember correctly. There's just minor.
I like this user interface.
Yeah, it runs pretty good. I mean, this is a 609 version, and the speed actually isn't too bad if you're in a 40 or 4-column mode, which is kind of what it's default.
Yes, it's it seems pretty good that way. And what about this? What's that question mark on top left part?
That's help. Now,
Right.
nothing in this program directory is probably going to have help. So, but basically, if you're in the commands directory or something, you can click on it. I'll see if help is there's for bounce. I don't think there is, but maybe there is.
The only thing I've been coming across with this GUI is the pointer's a bit bouncy.
yeah.
The bottom
Yeah.
right corner, you can't quite get it to go fully over onto the arrow.
What interface are you using? Yeah, I think I know the problem.
I think it's just one of those high res that's been modified to do 3 of the interfaces.
Yeah, there you,
You just
go.
flick
So
a switch.
I've got the same thing. Yeah, if you've got one that hasn't been modified, it works correctly.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
so
a
that's the
shame.
problem with the interface itself. I don't know if the extra.
Yeah. I'll have to try it with the standard one then.
Yeah, my one does the same thing.
Okay, at least I know what it is then.
So anyway, I'll
Okay.
just run the bouncing ball demo here. This is the compiled or packed version, I should say, of the bouncing ball demo. This is a 6809 version, so 609 version is actually a little bit faster, but
6309 is.
yeah, this is the 6809 I'm running right now.
Yeah,
So this is
yeah.
slower. And if you remember the source code, we had those shell display stuff. That's actually what's running right now. He actually echoes it to the screen. You don't have to, but he did it so you can see what it's doing. That's just loading a bunch of get put buffers off disk.
Debugging trick that he didn't take out.
That's the grid. That's the 40 ground. And that's the thing.
With page flipping.
Yeah, with page flipping. So that's 2 different. This seems to be running a bit slower in my machine right now. I don't know if this is something else in my machine running that's bogging it down, but.
Are you rotating the ball with palette switching?
Nope,
No?
rotating the ball with get put
Probably
buffers.
a bunch of sprites.
There's
There's
like
eight get put buffers of various rotations that it just cycles through as it's putting them.
I see.
The only palettes in here is changing the ball from blue to red when it hits the left or right border. Everything else is get put, and it's get putting the ball and the Mona Lisa picture. Those are 2 different get put buffers.
And it's moving it some 8 pixels by what, 4?
How far it's moving it, you mean?
Yes, it's not a per pixel movement, right? It's moving something like it's moving as
2
with the grid.
pixels at least.
Probably more than
moving
that, I'm guessing.
Is it moving according to the grid?
Yeah, the grid is actually part of the get put buffer underneath to make it look like it's not destroying the grid.
All right. So
Nice
that's
little
why-
programming trick.
Oh yeah.
But this is all in basic. I mean, this is get put buffers. If you compare the speed that Disk Basic does get put buffers on a 8 screen,
That's great.
it's quite a bit faster.
Mhm.
And it's about 70, 80, 100% faster on a 609 than this.
Really?
It's way better.
At CoCo Fest, they were running the 6809 and 6309 version side by side.
Yeah, so you can actually see it, in real time.
Difference.
Oh.
Same code, but just optimized for 6309.
It's also beeping when it hits the sides too, or the top or bottom, but you probably can't hear that.
Yeah, I can hear it.
You can hear the beep.
A little beep, yeah, in the background.
It's only
Probably
it's
picking
only
it up on
tiny.
my mic then, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably picking up from the mic.
But that's not too bad for a basic 09 button.
And I just crashed VCC.
You might have crashed into
I
the.
hit the clear key and it crashed VCC. VCC is not my normal thing of choice, but it's a lot easier to share on here. So
You've crashed into the 256 color mode, mate.
no, it just says the program VCC exe has encountered a serious problem and needs to close. Now I'm running it under wine, which is another extraction layer that makes it more prone to crash.
There's your problem.
There's your problem.
Yeah, I'm wondering, is there a 64-bit version of Wine out there?
Well, in OVCC,
I haven't found
finished,
it
it's a
because
native OS 10 app and it doesn't have these problems. It actually runs pretty decent. So
Oh,
I've
that
actually given up on
VCC.
Wine.
You're not running Wine to run that? That's
no, that OVCC does not need wine. It's a native OS 10 app, but it's
Okay.
also more buggy than the regular VCC because it's a very much a work in progress.
Yeah. But what I'm saying though, is there a 64-bit version of Wine out there?
I don't know. I haven't looked. Bill, do you know?
I don't think so. I haven't found one.
That's problematic because I got in a hurry and put the beta on for Catalina, and a couple of apps died. Wine was one of them because Catalina is not going to support a 32-bit apps anymore.
Oh, right. Yeah.
64-bit or hit the road. And Wine was one of the ones that died. A couple
I've
others
actually,
too.
I've actually run into a few issues right now too with Windows 10, not wanting to run Windows 7 apps anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Stuff that
I
recently
got
won't
that.
run?
I got that issue about 3 days ago. This app will not run on Windows 10.
Well, that blows.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Yeah, here is a.
What you doing running Windows 7 apps anyway? You need to upgrade.
No. No.
Sometimes the app developer's no longer around and it's something critical you need. I've got a few of those too.
Yeah, I get that constantly at work. People are like,
But here's
"Oh, well, I can't upgrade because it'll break this app."
Não, não, tô conversando com o povo aqui. Diga.
So can we see the rest of the good quality icons that
Or you got any more demos? You
got some brilliant more
Curtis?
icons coming.
Let's see the good quality ones. Now.
Well,
You have the trash can from multiple angles.
We need a 3D. Have we? Gee.
Now, here's some curiosity stuff for you guys. This is not sure if you can see here. Most unlikely.
Oh yeah, Ed Tasm.
Yes, that's a pirate manual in Portuguese.
Ah.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, it's a pirated Portuguese manual of that.
Okay. Yeah.
Father from a friend of mine when I was young. His father used to do color computer assembler stuff, and
That looks like that looks like it's the disc version of Ed Tasm.
I'm not sure if it is
Because it
didn't
looks
have
like Oh.
Yes, he didn't have a disk system, but
Oh, okay. Maybe it's just the ROM pack one.
but I'm not sure.
Yep, it's offline. Oh yeah, it came back.
wonder if it's something like happening on the general internet, like a DNS attack or something.
Even my card has been kind of iffy, and
Yeah, Zoom's working fine.
Yeah.
Could be a Restream IO thing.
Anyway, I'm going to try sharing. I just switched my Fusion to Unity mode, so I should be able to separate a window instead of seeing my whole desktop, and I'll see if I can share that in.
Oh no, Kurt is.
Yep.
There you go. Main.
Yeah, that's a really nice interface.
So this is the 6.309 version. So just to show
A little bit faster.
Now, Unity is a bit slower running Windows, so hopefully it doesn't screw that up too much. But
And it hides your PC, your computer cursor, so that
yeah,
you
can you
don't
see?
only
Can you see my mouse cursor on MAME though? Or
Yep.
No, well the CoCo mouse
CoCo
cursor,
one, yeah.
yes, but not the Mac mouse cursor.
okay.
Yes. On the other one, we could
Still
see
looks
the Mac
Yeah.
button.
Which is a pain when you're trying to point and click at something and you got these,
Go to-
parallax
loading-
going on.
It's
Oh
you
yeah,
can see the programs faster straight off.
yeah,
Here's
big
6.309.
big time.
Yes. Big time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, pure basic. I didn't change the code in the Basic 9 program whatsoever. This is just from using drivers optimized for 6.309 in the operating system itself.
Pretty good.
Get put buffers are much nicer.
And line drawing's much faster and much faster, and well, the whole darn thing's just much faster.
Yes, significantly faster.
well, took a lot of work.
It's not
And it's a good
it's not
trash
Sockmaster
can.
fast. Yeah.
You got to look at that trash can again. That's what Nick's telling me.
Have you got? I did send you the disk with all the new icons. I don't know if you can access it. It's in the Discord.
That trash can does look faster.
Yeah, look at it.
Keep faster now.
It's
Yeah,
fast.
we
that
can
trash
Nick
can
in
was
it
just
even
so-
faster.
That's it.
Need some little graffiti on this. Says by Nick Morenz.
It's spinning. You know that.
Oh, that
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's right.
trash can needs to shimmer a little bit. Side to side.
Now, sit back and prepare to be amazed.
Nick's as modest as David is creepy.
All the way
That's
from
it.
down under.
The sequel to the trash can.
If you like the trash can.
So this is the editor that Curtis has got that's been working on for doing the icon editing. So I've been working on creating icons for the up and coming Sierra games. So I've been using OS 9. Shock horror, shock horror, I've been using Nitrous 9. So
So do you think it's going to replace your Amiga anytime soon?
not quite, but
Small steps.
small steps.
We'll brainwash. I mean, convert him later. So
Yeah. Where's Popstar Pilot 09?
Yeah, it'll be ready by the end of the weekend. So they're the icons that I've been putting together for all the Sierra games. So it's all your King's Quest 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Leisure Suit Larry.
Leisure Suit Larry, Police Quest, Space Quest. There's 3 of those.
3 official and 1 unofficial.
3 official and 1, homebrew. Manhunter 1 and 2. What's
Black
that color? Black Cauldron, Mother Goose, and I just did the Gold Rush. And there's a few other homebrew Sierra games that people have put together. So like they're unofficial, not Sierra ones, but they're using the Sierra engine, and they're going to be just called homebrew. And then whatever the name of the game is will appear below. But yeah, that's going to be in the upcoming Sierra, the next update when Curtis gets all the Sierra games are launching from an icon.
Yeah. What's your favorite icon out of these so far, Nick?
Mine, I'm not sure.
The crown, because it looks a
The,
lot
the crown is good. It's got a bit of that trash can look to it. Larry's good. I thought Larry was pretty good.
Nice.
Space
Yeah.
Quest. Space Quest.
And the Manhunter one. Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. Yes, sort of. The Manhunter one looks pretty cool.
How about on the panel here? Because I'll pick one to load in the fat bits mode so you can see it up close.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't care.
Any requests from the panel that you want to see
How
zoomed
about
up?
Leisure Suit Larry?
Yeah, put Larry's on.
Yes.
Larry's mugshot.
Such a cool game.
It's loading slow right now too because MAME has got this on a floppy disk image and it actually emulates the slowness of a floppy. Yay.
All right, so that will be the real speed if one loads from a floppy.
Yeah.
Not on an SDC though, because the floppies in there actually are fast.
So yeah, there's a few cosmetic changes to do to the icon editor, and Curtis will have those hopefully ready by the next update. But that's the program. A couple of bugs that we found and Curtis has been sorting out, and it seems to be working okay.
Yeah.
But that's the editor.
And that the editor is written in Basic 09. That's a Basic 09
Yeah,
program,
this is the whole Basic 09 program.
Nice.
which actually has stuff like pull down menus, which you can do fairly easily from Basic 09 too. So you don't have to do all these manual drawing. You just set up strings that have what the actual wording is on your menu items and what menu items are turned on or off. You can actually control that from the program.
You're just instantiating a window, right?
So in case of my game that has a drop-down menu, I probably wouldn't have to waste some 8K for the system.
No, it's 32 bytes per entry, I think, if I remember correctly.
That's really nice.
And then the actual mouse cursor and the clicks and the highlight of the menu bars, that's all done by the operating system. So you don't have to do any of this stuff. This is a single call that says, go let the user select a menu, pull it down, let him select an item on the menu, flat or inverse it when he's selecting it, blink it when he's clicked the button, and then come back to you and tell me which menu item and which menu he picked. And then
that's really nice.
That's all done by the operating system. That's just one line in your Basic 09 program.
Wow. Oh, so it's not like you're building the menu or anything like that. You're just saying
You do the initial build of the menu, but the actual menu selection part, which is like, moving your mouse cursor and selecting it. That's just
what I'm saying. You're not coding that. That's crazy. Yeah, that's wonderful. Like a real operating system.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Now, I will mention that some of this functionality has been added in after the original OS 9 was done. The menuing stuff has been there along, but as far as Basic 9 having a one-line support of that was added in when Kevin Darling and them were working on the upgrade, and that was one part he was allowed to release. And then I've added a few things to it too myself afterwards too. But
so that was not part of the original level 2 OS 9?
It's part of Multiview OS 9. But the Basic 09 support for it was not. Back then, you had to do system calls. So you had to set it up like for a C program or assembly programs. You had to do a bunch of fancier stuff. He added some functions to the Graphics 2 module, specifically to do the high-level menu handling and some other stuff too. So if you look in the OS 9 Level 2 manual, most of the stuff that's in there doesn't involve the actual menu handling stuff. Most of it's just the graphic drawing primitives, like doing basic windowing and get put buffers and stuff. That's all in there. There's an additional documentation that is in the ease of use that I've got in the DD docs directory, so you can take a look at it, that adds all these functions. In fact, I might as well just show it to you because it's probably easier to try and explain it.
I'm going to ask you, do you have does the system have others let's say checker-box stuff, or just pull down menu? Does it have any other Windows kind of assets?
Show them that other library, that program that uses the other library.
The basic library here. Whoops, I forgot the folder. You have command line editing too, which is nice. So this is the revised GFX2 package, originally released in 1990, and then I did some additions just this last year on it too.
Nice.
But it adds these functions to the GFX2 and above and beyond what the manual, if you download it off the archive, has.
Oh, there you go. Title menu light.
You can set your window titles, the size of the window. You can set your menu items. You can set the items within each menu. Which type of a window, because you can have a window that has the menu bar on the top but nothing on the sides or the bottom. You can have it with the scroll bars. There's also some other like dialog box type things that you can do too. WinFo returns information on the current window. So if you want to, if a person runs it from the command line and you want to restore that window to the same type and colors and stuff that he had originally, rather than leave it in whatever your program did, you can use that information to grab the original information. You run your program, you change it to a graphic screen, you do whatever you're doing. And once it exits, you can actually change it back to what he had. The return menu. Now, button slider is something that was in level 2 upgrade. That's not in Nitrous 9 yet. And it's not in stock OS 9 at all, but the menu stuff works there fine. Update the menu bar. You can not only gray out menu items within a menu, you can actually gray out the menu itself if whatever state the program in doesn't make any sense to have that as a selectable item. So for example, on the icon editor, if you haven't picked an icon, then you obviously can't use the tools to edit an icon because you have nothing to edit. So it'll actually will gray that out. And
It'll
not
grab the menu itself, so you can't select it.
Yeah, until your program tells it you can.
Right.
And you can do that on menus or on menu items, both. And he's got some special stuff here for updating the scroll bars. You can actually tell what positions on the horizontal, the vertical scroll bar you want the little marker to show up on. Now, one thing is right now it's done on a character basis. So your horizontal, if you're on an 80-column screen, you've got the 2 arrows on the sides. You have 7 to 8 positions you can tell it to put horizontally, and you have 23 positions maximum to tell it to do vertically. We are going to be adding in support for pixel level stuff. So you can have like a 600 and whatever pixel wide and 180 whatever high. You got set mouse params, which is a lot easier than using the system call. Return mouse info. That's a very complicated packet. A lot of people have not used the full extent of that because it actually records how long has button 2 been held down for since the last mouse move and stuff. But there's a 32-byte packet of info it gives you back. So there's a lot of complicated things you can do in there. On mouse signal, that basically tells it go let the operating system draw where the mouse is and update the mouse position cursor and stuff, and you don't return back to your basic program until he's clicked something. So that basically tells your program to go to sleep and let the rest of the operating system handle the mouse, and also any other programs you get more time to run in the background because you're not doing anything until the guy clicks something anyway.
Nothing is happening on the front.
Yeah. Music miscellaneous ID that's a very simple one. It just returns your process ID. If you're doing get put buffers, it's generally considered good practice to use get put buffers, unlike basic, which just has a buffer number. On Nitrous 9 and OS 9, they have a group and a buffer number. So each group can have up to 255 buffers. And they just generally recommend you, if you're doing stuff in your own program, you get your process ID number. So if I'm process 3, then I would reserve group 3 for myself. That way they're not trampling over each other. So you have like one program going, I'm using buffer 2, and the next guy goes, no, I'm using buffer 2. And depending what order you run them, and they'll overwrite each other and change them all. And then, of course, the other programs get completely screwed up. So general practice is you get your process ID and you make the buffers in that group. And you still have 255 get put buffers you can use within that group. Tone is just for playing tones. That's very similar to the sound command, though it has more range of tones. Sound has 255 different pitches, and OS 9 has 4,096 pitches. And you can also control the volume. Drawing, there's a whole bunch of drawing commands. Go to the level 2 manual for that. We added a couple here, F circle and F ellipse, which is filled circle and filled ellipse, which I've demonstrated in the show before too. And then draw, I just had a correction there because when they did the level 2 upgrade version that this is based on, they added some extra features to it, like having the start X, Y coordinates where you want to start drawing without having to manually set the graphics cursor to that position. But that was never documented, so I added it in here. And then there's more full explanations of here and how to set up the menus and sample code to do it and all the different things here too. So, and then a complete description of the new commands.
Nicely documented.
So if you have the level 2 manual, you'll have most of the commands that are in GFX2. And then if you view this thing here, or you can copy it onto your PC or whatever, These are the extra ones or additional features, existing ones that we added. But basically, the icon editor uses a fair number of these additional ones here specifically to do all the menu bar stuff.
That's pretty great.
And I could actually show you the source code for SuperEgg itself, which is a fairly lengthy Basic 09 program. It's a series of modules, actually. So just go over here.
So do you have access to the actual source code for
Some for OS9? Did we have actual access to the original microware source? Not
Yeah.
the slightest. This was all disassembled by hand by Bill, myself, Wes, and Alan DeCock.
Wow,
And we also had to do all the third-party stuff too, because of course most of them didn't give us source code either. A couple
Right.
did. A couple did.
Really?
The guy that's doing the OS9 port to a hardware project that it was on Facebook recently, Dave Weens, who did the Sardis no-halt controller and stuff, he actually did give us source code for SDIS3, MSF, and a few other things. So he gave us some.
Nice.
And one or two other people did too. I think Keith Alfonso gave us some, Bill, if I remember.
Oh yeah, Keith gave us lots of stuff.
But most of it we had to reverse engineer ourselves, like Chris Burke stuff. We had to reverse engineer disto stuff. We had to reverse engineer all of OS9 itself. We had to reverse engineer. So there's a lot of disassembly going on. And now Wayne Campbell's been making Basic 09 decompilers. So you can actually take packed RunB code and decompile that into a kind of rough looking Basic 09 that you have to go tweak a bit. And he's done two versions of the compiler, and each has bugs that are unique to itself. So I usually or not usually, but most of the time I have to run both decompilers on it, and then I kind of merge the two chunks together because I know where the strengths and the weaknesses on each one lies, and I can actually reconstitute Basic 09 source code. And I did that on SuperEgg. The guy who wrote SuperEgg back in '91 did release it on CompuServe, but I can't find it anywhere. So I don't know if it's lost forever or what, but I basically decompiled the entire thing and then, changed variable names so I knew what the hell the program was doing. And that's how I did the modifications to get it to work.
Have you heard from Wayne Campbell recently?
His job situation has not been going well.
Right.
So he hasn't had much time or money to get online. I have talked to him a little bit, though. He's still around.
Cool.
Hopefully things will turn around for him soon.
Yeah, I hope so. I saw him in January.
Yeah, how was he doing then?
He was doing okay, hanging on. So.
So I'll go to the new version. This is the current running version. So here's the main driving program called SuperEgg. And this is this source listing actually has multiple procedures mixed into it. So I'll just do a search for the word procedure. So there's the first one. Here's the next one called load symbols. And then basically there's a bunch of them. I'm not going to go through them all here, but and I've got lots of rems in here because I was trying to figure out how this thing worked myself as I was decompiling it. But when you pack it, it strips all those out, so the size goes way, way down. I don't know if there's any particular part of this you want to see. Here's the actual data for the 3 icons it preloads itself. If you take a look over. The status one here can have 3 possible states. The hammer means you're just doing general editing. There's a faucet if you're about to do a fill command. And then there's a little stopwatch clock thing that means I'm busy, which is usually when it's painting or something. So in the source code, that's what these are. The hammer editing icon, that's the raw data for a 24 by 24 pixel 4-color icon. And then there's your stopwatch busy icon data, and here's your faucet. So that's just raw pixel data statements, basically. And you can see here, like on the procedure click box, there's a param. You can actually pass parameters between your procedures. So in this case, we're passing an array of 10 text strings, each up to 25 bytes. And then we're passing a whole bunch of, if I scroll over here, a bunch of integer values too, that you can then use in your program, and you can return values back in them too, so you can change them. So you can pass data back and forth between procedures. And they don't have to be all Basic 09 procedures. You can pass parameters to machine language procedures or C compilers or C program procedures, and they can pass stuff back too. So you can intermix all kinds of languages if you wanted to. Like if you like in this case, actually, SuperEgg has 3 assembly language routines for doing some of the pixel stuff, just to make it fast. And basically, it just calls between them all with the exact same way of doing it. You do run, procedure name, parentheses, and then all the different things you're passing to it. So we can find one of those.
It's interesting.
Yeah, even GFX2 itself is a machine language subroutine module that Basic 9 is calling, and you send parameters like the name of the command you want to do and the parameters for it. I'll see if I can find one that's not a GFX2, but an actual run B. Yeah, here, like run load symbols. That one doesn't have any parameters because it just basically loads the graphics for those 3 icons. So that doesn't pass parameters. It just runs it. Get G shell palettes does the same thing. It's just hard coded to do certain things. So we can find one of the ones that passes parameters here. Here's running syscall. That's doing an API call. Here, clickbox. So this one runs a clickbox procedure, which passes a clickbox text, which is that array of 10 elements of strings, and then window sizes and colors and etc. And box num selected is what it gets back saying what part of the screen did the guy click on.
Almost like an event.
Yeah, in this case, it's kind of simulating an event. The on mouse is kind of an event too. That's one of the built-in commands where it puts the procedure to sleep and then basically lets the operating system handle it. You know, you picked a menu where you click the close box or scroll bar arrows. Those are built into the operating system itself. In the case of SuperEgg, we're not just doing menus and scroll bars and the standard stuff. We're actually making those little, fat bit grid things, and we're doing the color palette selection boxes and stuff, which are not normal elements. So that is what this click box does. It basically figures out if you clicked on any of those things, what I'm going to do to react to it. And I've got the indenting on this because I edited this with a text editor. So normally you would just let Basic 9 do this on its own, but it helps me monitor the flow control of the program myself. And you can see like a until there, until quit flag near the bottom. So that's a repeat until. There's a lot of the loop constructs. You're probably familiar with Pascal and some other languages too that are built in Basic 9. And then if you want to get into types, that's a complex types we were talking about, John, earlier. So like type registers is basically the register package you send for an API call. So it's got the condition code register, the A accumulator, the B accumulator, and the DP register, which are all single bytes, and the X, Y, and U are all 16-bit integers. And then a little bit later, you see dim regs : registers. So that means regs.a refers to the A in that register packet. And it sends this 10-byte packet with you just specifying the different parts within. And then you get really complicated ones like type 3 there. The type has got a 24 by 24 byte array of the pixel colors. And then it's got some Boolean flags. And it's got a string of icon name. And then another array of 2 bytes. And you can put, whatever you define that type. And you can assign that type to multiple variables. It doesn't have to be a single variable either. I could make, I don't know a good example in this case, but you can dim, variable 1 : type 3, variable 2 : type 3, and both of them get that entire complex structure assigned to them. And you can put them in arrays. So you can have like an array of 10 of those entire complex structures. And those can have arrays within the arrays and stuff. So you can get some really complicated data types.
Really fall down the rabbit hole there.
Yeah, it's really good if you're doing database type stuff because it's pretty easy. You just get the main name of the variable that contains the data type, and that's all you have to do to get and write to the disk files. Just get type.
Yeah.
And then you can deal with the individual elements within it afterwards.
I actually do that quite a bit.
And you can, you could like get customer info, and then here's the name of the customer.
Yeah, then you do custinfo.name equals Joe or whatever, or print custinfo.name or whatever. Yeah.
Or read custinfo.name to get the name if you're reading in from it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can either get the entire complex structure or you can get the individual elements of it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just can't get the time.
Oh, yeah, there's a time packet.
Yeah, if you add a real time clock on, or
oh, there's a software timer. That's why it asks you for the date and time when you start, and then it'll keep track of that, semi-accurately.
Yeah, I actually saw a really neat DOS program because back in the day, PCs had notoriously bad real time clocks, to the point where, especially if you did networking, because the network card would halt the PC every time it was active. And so like I worked at this place, and we used network cards on old DOS PCs, and like every 3 or 4 weeks, the time was off by 10 minutes or so. And I was looking for a solution for it, and I'm thinking there's got to be a hardware fix. But believe it or not, some guy wrote a software fix for it, where you run the program, and for the first couple of weeks, it every so often, like once a week, it has you correct the time, and then it just monitors over the course of that week, and it figures out typically on the amount of usage your network gets and slows down the clock, it would adjust for it. So the first couple of weeks, you reset the clock every week or so, and then after that,
It gets smarter and smarter, and eventually.
yeah, because it's basically was monitoring how much time loss you had over a period of time and adjusting for that, which made it really accurate.
I wish I could say we could do that on the CoCo, but the whole thing that really screwed up the software timer is the fact that Tandy sold halting disk controllers, which means anytime you access a floppy, it completely stops the CPU dead, so it can't count anything. You have no idea how much disk access the guy's done, or how big of disk access he's done, or
right. But you can have the user adjust the time, correct the time over a period of time. Like you start and you set the correct time, then a week later you ask the user.
Yeah, but that would be less accurate. Like on a PC, at least you've got DMA. You're not halting the CPU to read a floppy.
No, but back in the day, the old network controllers would halt the PC, which was what was throwing us off, because we had a whole network computer. And there was a lot of traffic on the the old gee, what were they, like 486s or something?
Okay.
Those network cards back in those days would halt the controller when there was network access.
Yeah, because then you hear I entered the Titan time when I booted this up here, and I mean this when I took a quick look when I typed -T here, it was off by about 40 seconds, and I've done some floppy access getting NICs icons and stuff, so it's a little off. But if I'd stayed on just the hard drive emulation, which is no halt, then it's generally a bit more accurate. But yeah, a real-time clock helps, I think, every real computer.
Absolutely.
And there's other languages too. There's C compilers already built on here, and Bill can give you more details on that than I can. There's several assemblers, depending on what you want to do. Available languages include Logo, Pascal, COBOL, Fortran. I haven't been able to find COBOL or Fortran because that was like a $500 package back in the day, and Tandy didn't tell you had to buy it directly from Microware, so it's kind of rare. But Logo and some of the other ones, Pascal and stuff, were sold, so those will eventually be making it on here too. So you guys can just pick whatever language you want to use, mix and match if you want.
Fortran, someone has that.
Yeah, if they've got the OS9 level 2 version of Fortran, send it to me because I'd love to include it on here.
Because someone was talking about it before. I'm gonna have to think about who it was, but they had Fortran.
COBOL too. I remember seeing in the Microware 6809 catalog. And they were on the
don't know about
that too. So,
but Fortran, definitely there was someone who had.
I've got to run off for a sec, guys. I'll drop in again later. If you're still here, I'll join in again.
Okay, alrighty, Nick. How long we'll keep pushing this here?
Yeah,
okay, Nick.
No worries. Okay, well, it's another good programming after dark.
It's all downhill.
How many are watching?
Anyways, Nick.
Yeah, well, we saw the trash can. I'm satisfied now.
It's all downhill from there.
How many are watching now?
Yeah. How do you tell?
Mark can check, I think.
Still 8 on YouTube, and there's
9.
8 on YouTube and 2 on Facebook.
Okay. All right then. I might see you later.
Okay, Nick.
Okay then. See you later. Bye.
Later, mate.
Bye.
Bye, Nick.
Bye, Nick.
Any other questions here? I don't want to hog the show again like I did last time.
No,
what do you mean hog the show?
Yeah.
Where'd you get that fascinating.
Where'd you get that awesome trash can icon from?
Some loser named Nick.
And I thought he didn't like OS9 stuff.
Well, the reason he didn't like it is because he's like Stevie, he doesn't like reading manuals for one. He had to make it really easy to use. And he also had stability problems when he was installing software because a lot of the installs back in the day were scripts, that specifically required a certain drive to be mounted and certain directories to be made. And if you tried running anything else, it would screw up and crash. And
you're trying to make this Nitrous 9 like plug and play style now, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, we're both trying to improve the operating system speed-wise, feature-wise, but we're also trying to make it more like a modern OS as far as ease of use goes, where you don't have to worry about all that kind of stuff. So
have it all built in already.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So that's why I think he's been using it, because he's been able to actually run a program and it doesn't crash with some weird error because some data file got moved. Or
well, you can imagine what he could do if Nick programmed for it.
What's that?
You can imagine what Nick would program for something if he got stuck into this basic 09 or OS 9 stuff.
Oh, I think he'd like the assembler too. I mean, he wouldn't, write a full-blown game because you can't do all the gimme tricks here as easily.
No, but he'd still do something.
Oh, yeah.
He could do a decent Pong.
Oh, no, he can go beyond that. I mean, you can use all the legal OS 9 codes. We've sped up the graphics enough that you can make a decent game using the legal stuff, but you still have access to directly map the screen in and write to it directly, which games like Shanghai and Thexter do.
Yeah,
and
well,
they run
that showed that you can do stuff that Nick does. It just takes a bit more work.
Yeah, and you may not be able to get the exact speed. And background sound is something that is a bit of a killer in here, because I can set up an FRQ routine to do background sound, but because we're in a multitasking operating system, it hits the other apps way harder than it would for Nick, because he's only got his one game running and he just has to run sound in the background of that game. We're trying to run like the GUI and something else you might be running, or BBS or whatever else.
That's where we needed another IRQ that wasn't used by anything else. It was a special one.
But what we really needed was, some accelerators, like, graphics chips or sound chips or something like that doesn't tax the CPU, because everything's CPU driven right now. And even with the 609, I mean, that buys you some time, but that doesn't perform miracles.
Nah.
Well, can hardware on the cartridge expansion help the front? No, I know nothing about hardware. Because I
think some certain ones, like a sound card, definitely would. Because I mean, a sound card, you set it up, it has its own buffer, it generates a sound on its own with its own internal clock timer. So basically, you just send commands to it and say, you go handle this playing stuff, and I'm going to go back to drawing the graphics for my game. Whereas right now, we have to basically have a timer IRQ every 60th of a second go and piddle around with the PIA to dump out some sound bits to the
Well, that's why I wanted the STC card to come with a sound chip, like even a socket for a sound chip to put in.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a bit late to change that design because there's well over 800 already out there. So it's
it's a shame.
That's why he had put it into his Mega Multi pack, Mega Mini pack. Because he's got built-in sound and built-in high-speed serial chips and 4 slots. So basically, the next best place to put it was the multi-pack. And he actually put in a really powerful sound chip in that one. So once drivers and stuff are fully done to support that, you'll be able to do some pretty cool stuff and not slow down. You'll be able to make a big design game with a musical background that won't slow down at all.
And then his Gimme chip, Gimme X, when he's done, that's going to even make it even a lot better.
Yeah, because he can actually build in some acceleration there. You can have the CPLD on there actually tell it, you go clear a block in the screen. I want to make an overlay window like this. Well, instead of me having to draw every single individual line with the 609 or 6809, you would just send a command that's maybe 10 bytes long to the Gimme and say, do it. And it would do it at CPLD 25 megahertz speed. Well,
that comes under DMA, doesn't it?
No, there's no DMA. I think it just has access to the RAM, because the Gimme has to access the RAM anyway for video. But now we have a dynamic RAM refresh cycle that the original Gimme does, that because if you made the RAM, you don't need that cycle anymore with the 2 meg upgrades. It's all static RAM. So you can literally run at 4 megahertz on the RAM from the Gimme X and basically double the speed of some of the stuff it's doing. If it had its own static RAM right on board on the Gimme X itself, which hopefully they'll add on before they actually start selling the product, then it can run at the CPLD speed. So if you have a 25 megahertz or FPGA, or say, if you have that thing running at 25 megahertz, the RAM can actually run at 25 megahertz. So you can do these modifications like
if you got fast enough,
12 and a half times faster than we're doing right now.
Crazy. That'd be neat to see.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it would look like a real GUI OS at that point.
Yeah.
That'd be something like that'd be just like a PC, really.
Getting up there, yeah.
With
I mean,
its
we've seen what a
with its graphics
609 has done
cards.
to it, and that's just
Yeah.
piddle compared to that.
So, well, hopefully someone will do it, or it'll come to that.
Well, I know they're working on the new Gimme. Are they planning on that, on static RAM in the chip itself? Or-
Not at this point. I know Ed
Mm.
had mentioned that they were having, it's complicated enough. They have to support VJ. They're adding in all the semi-graphics mode support that went missing on the CoCo 3. They're doing
Oh, that's it.
accelerator stuff on it as
Yeah.
well. Will work with the existing RAM systems. They're doing all that first.
I don't think he had enough space or something, didn't he?
Well, that was
'Cause
one
he's-
thing, but he also said he didn't want to try to tackle that on top, like having all the RAM synchronization and stuff like that on
Yeah.
top of the stuff he's doing now, because you still have to talk to the PIA peripherals and CPU and everything else and have everything timed properly. So he didn't want to make it more complicated. So I think the general gist was they were going to try to get this stuff stable first. And then if
Yeah.
they can add in and have enough room on the programmable chip to add in support for static RAM, then they could look at doing it. At the very least, it should be able to hook up directly to, like I know Richard has talked about, there's a way to link it directly to the GIME-X from his Boomerang E2 board so that it can talk to the
Oh.
static RAM on that without using the dynamic RAM refresh cycles, which is literally half the time on the bus. So basically you can access the RAM at 4 megahertz instead of 2 megahertz when it's talking to the GIME-X. So if you want to do graphic stuff in there, you literally can
Well-
double the speed.
Well, that's nothing. That's no different to what we were talking about anyway. Having onboard memory for the graphic side of things.
Well, no, because the memory on the E2 still has to talk to the CPU and stuff at its normal speed. So basically, you're just gaining that dynamic RAM refresh cycle back to use for whatever. It still has to run at 2 megahertz / 4 megahertz, basically. If it was directly on the GIME-X board itself, it runs at the speed of the actual chip. And that would be like 12, 25 megahertz.
It's
they'd
still
be-
fast. What do you
Even
call it?
4
4
would be
megahertz is
faster
still
than-
fast.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
doing the speed up poke on a CoCo 1 or 2. That speed increase
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. That's
But
going to be a
25 would be
bonus.
way better.
That'd be good for Nitrous 9 and stuff. Definitely.
If you've seen the CoCo FPGA running maxed out, that's basically what it would be capable of doing.
The future of the CoCo is getting big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're adding new modes and stuff too. And like I asked him if
Yeah.
like they were talking about all these extra 256 color modes, but those get a bit more complicated unless you have hardware support on the GIME-X. Because now you got a 64K screen, which means if I want to map the whole screen in, I've lost my program. I have no room for my program anymore. So now you have to write more complicated graphics drivers to map in chunks of the screen, draw part of it. Like try to draw a line from the top to the bottom of a 64K screen. You have to map it in at least in 2 chunks and have the driver smart enough to know where it left off on one screen to start on the next screen.
Yeah.
And then map with MMU blocks, back in and out. So it gets complicated. So the drivers become bigger, etc. Whereas if he just does some things within the 32K limit, like you can make a 320 by 200 would that be 160 by 200 by 256 color mode, and
Which
that takes the
was-
same amount of RAM as a 320 by 200 by 16 or 640 by 200 by 4. So that fits in 32K, but you can get the full 256 colors.
Would that be the 225 vertical?
You
Or
could do
just
225 as
200?
well. I just use 200,
Which
as
would
an
be
example.
30, which is 36.
Yeah, or you could do increase vertical res. You could do a 320 by 200 or 320 by 400 by 4, which would fit in 32K. But you could double the vertical res. So the screen we're looking at right now, which is a 4-color 320 by 200, double the vertical res on that, and that would
Yeah.
still fit in the drivers without it having to do anything really weird or special.
Oh, that'd be good for apps.
Yeah, or 640 by 200 or 640 by 400 by 2 color.
Yeah.
That would fit in 32K as well. So, and he said that wouldn't be too hard to add. So if he adds those in, we'll get some increased support even without having to do weird wonky stuff.
Every
Also
little bit
adding
helps.
512 color palettes which work on all the modes.
I was hoping he'd put a blitter or something on the thing.
Well, that's the CoCo FPGA does have some blitter functions. Bill, you probably know about this more than I do because I think the Matchbox does as well, doesn't it? Is Bill
Yeah,
still
it
here?
does.
Okay.
Oh, that's all right then.
And there was a
Because
math
that'll help.
coprocessor Roger added too, I think, for doing big math or floating point math.
What was that?
The Matchbox also adds a math coprocessor too, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It has both GPU and FPU.
Well, that's what Steve wants. He wants the maths coprocessor, doesn't he?
Yeah.
That's what Bjork said the other week. He'd love to have a maths coprocessor or something to fiddle around with.
Yeah, so there's a lot of opportunity there that isn't going to require massive rewrites of drivers and bigger code to be able to handle the special modes. But you do have those there if you want to write a game or something specific for it, but it will be more complicated.
Oh, okay.
Unless they add some blitter functions that do some of this stuff for you. Like you draw the line from here to here across a screen that's 64K long. And I just send it a command.
Let's throw in ray tracing too while we're at it.
Are you kidding? PCs are finally getting real-time ray tracing finally now. But just having graphic primitives like clearing a block of memory, a rectangular block that doesn't have to be completely contiguous, scrolling, that can be done at full throttle, drawing lines, circles, that kind of stuff. You could do all that through FPGA routines versus having to do it through the 6 through 9. Yeah, you could. Graph driver would shrink actually. The graphics drivers would shrink because I wouldn't have to do all the math and the bit shifting and stuff to do all that stuff. I would just send it a sequence just like we do with display commands from the shell itself.
Yeah.
And way faster than we could ever do it on a 609 or 609.
Sky's the limit. That's all I can think of.
You can even do software sprites where it actually does the background masking and
Yeah.
everything else too. Yeah, there's a ton of things you can do.
Well, that's what I asked Ed, if he's going to be putting some sort of sprite type feature in the Gimme X, if he's got the room.
Yeah. I would
Maybe.
rather spend the extra money and the extra circuit board real estate to get a bigger, more powerful chip in there off the start. Even if they don't have everything ready to go off the start, you can upgrade it in the field with, what are the things called, Bill, that you plug into to upgrade these things? So the firmware.
Oh, firmware.
If you're reprogramming an FPGA, there's a thing you plug into it to reprogram.
JTAG programmer.
JTAG.
Yeah, right. So even if they picked a bigger FPGA to be able to support all this stuff in the future, but they don't have the time to write all the drivers to do all this stuff at once, they just get the VGA support and the semi-graphics support and the extended palette. Release that as a version 1. But then you have these JTAG things. You could just plug it in and then you download the firmware update and it actually upgrades the board. Now I've got even more functions added on without having to buy new hardware or replace anything.
Well, that's what Ed's doing now with the Gimme X, isn't he? He's going to have firmware upgrades like on the go.
Yeah, but I'm hoping he picks a big enough one that he leaves a lot of room for expansion. He doesn't pick one that he's
Out of room.
got much room for extra stuff.
Yeah,
Right?
I'd pay the extra
I'd rather
money
spend
for
the
a
extra
bigger one.
$10 for a bigger one. Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, I'd pay for an extra bigger one.
Because otherwise you're going to have to pull it out and replace it with a new one 2 years down the road.
Yeah, and you don't want that.
You could do like the guys from Microware and put a picture of himself on the chip.
Yeah, exactly.
And have a picture of a Cylon.
You hold down E and D and hit reset, and it brings up the picture.
Yeah.
Don't give him ideas.
Good.
He might do something like that now.
Hopefully he's not watching.
Yeah. The only thing you got to worry about this at that point, though, is that there has to be software support for this stuff.
Oh yeah.
And also, the good software writers have to go, is there a big enough market to make this worth my while? Like if Nick wanted to write a game specifically to use these things, well, now all of a sudden requires a CoCo through the Gimme X. And how many people are going to have that off the start? So is it worth them writing a game?
Well,
For us
we
doing it
are
the
growing.
OS, at least if we upgrade the OS, every app gets to use it.
Yeah, but we
Especially-
are growing. The amount of people coming into the group.
Yeah, but they have to be
Yeah.
coders enough to be able to do this stuff. That's the thing, because BASIC won't support this stuff unless somebody rewrites BASIC.
They have to be coders and have the time. That's
Coders
another-
and the time they have to be assembly coders at this point.
Right. Well, I've done some assembly coding, not a lot, but enough to, get my feet wet.
Yeah, That's where Bill and I
Yeah.
have the advantage with Nitrous 9, because if we upgrade to graphics driver ourselves and add new display codes to support these extra features, then all you other programmers have to do is run Basic 09 or whatever, or even shell scripts for that matter, use display codes, and then you can actually access the new functionality without you guys having to learn any of this new stuff.
Hmm. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, you guys are just basically telling the operators, do this.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's probably time to shut her down. Only took us a couple hours to get to actual coding. So
What's the record? Yeah, it was that lead in.
Slow start.
So what's that sprite editor there? What's that?
that's Super Ike, and that's it'll be on the next beta 5 of ease of use.
Oh, okay, cool.
Something to look forward to.
Nick and Rob Inman have got preview copies of it. They've actually been helping me debug it because there was a few issues when I was reprogramming it for ease of use and the higher screen resolution vertically that we have compared to the original time when Super Ike was originally written. But yeah, that'll be included on the next one. So you guys can all start creating icons for your own programs.
Is
It
the
looks all
gimme
right.
is the gimme chip socketed?
Yes.
Okay, so when
only
they come out with the
Chip
new
in the
chip,
CoCo 3 that is.
so when the chip
Yeah.
comes out, it'll just be plug and play.
Well, the new Gimme X is actually a whole board that plugs into the Gimme chip socket.
Oh,
It's
okay.
It's not just a chip.
The power units didn't have the actual RS-DOS, what do you call it, socketed. Ours was actually a socketed chip.
Yeah, that's
We
right.
could-
You guys got the advantage of having socketed chips out.
Yeah,
In the
which
States
we'd
and
rather
Canada,
have the
everything was socket.
CPU. We'd rather have the CPU socketed, so you just go, bang, pull it out, put a new one in, done.
Now, granted, I'll give this to Tandy. When Tandy made the CoCo 3, Motorola had already ended the line. They weren't going to do any updates to the 609. The 609 was already out, but it was just meant as a low power version, and nobody knew about all these extra features because that Hitachi snuck those in. Those
Right.
Oh, that was just what they wanted to put in. They thought, oh, now we've got room here. We might as well just do this.
Yeah, and Motorola didn't commission them to do that, so and they were supposed
That
to
was
be
off their own back.
source.
Well, from what I read, they approached Motorola, and Motorola said, "No, you have a license to produce these chips, and that's it." And they
Yeah.
wouldn't let them do it, so they did it anyways, and just kind of
Just
hid
never
it.
said anything. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm glad they did.
me too.
Yeah, me three.
Yeah.
E4.
Yeah, and anybody
Yeah.
on the panel or anybody listening or watching this after the fact, if you guys have any questions or want to know how to do a specific technique in Basic 9 or Disk Basic or anything else, any other programming language, come up with the questions, have them ready for the next show, and hopefully we won't have 2 hours of dead air like we did this time. We can actually get straight into you have a question. How do I do this under Disk Basic? How do I do this under OS 9 or whatever? And we can go straight into it. So send emails to the show or put comments in the YouTube video or the Facebook video, and we'll grab them from there.
No worries.
Yep. Discord
Yes.
is too.
Programming. Yep.
Ready. Well, I'm out of here then, guys. I'll see y'all later.
Okay.
I got it, mate.